Oh, good morning, universe. Hello, everybody. Hey, internet. Jesus Christ is risen from the dead. That means you've been paid for it. That makes you immortal now, and he's not going to be long. Anyway, crisis averted. I don't know. It was an update to the software. The time for the show passed its start, and then we were not able to see that as a button to click anymore, and I had to go and edit some things to get us up to where we could even launch the show on the stream. But blah, 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 blah. Welcome to the White Noise. Stop the White Noise with Jonathan and Meredith. I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Meredith.
And we are tired of wallowing, lying, being around those who wallow in the muck with no hope. We are weary of these gray and latter days, and we are not going to take it anymore in our house. We're going to shut off the voice of the accuser, silence the evil one, and let the refrain of Jesus Christ's gospel be our bread and meat indeed all our days, walking through this wasteland toward the life of the world to come.
Amen.
Yeah. December 2nd, 2023. My midlife crisis is officially over. My, what were we talking, how we call it yesterday? My emotional breakdown. What do you call that? Every pastor has to go through one if he's good. You learned that at seminary.
Mental breakdown is what
mental
I think
breakdown. That's it. That's
the
it.
term we were.
Yeah. So, I mean, you learn this listening to A Brief History of Power with Dr. Adam Kuntz and myself. I learned it at seminary and did remember it, but I'd never really brought it up again to anybody else when he mentioned. It's weird that everybody who you know in the LCMS before 1940, like all of our famous German guys, all had mental breakdowns.
Really?
Every single one of them. They had to be like stopped from working. People had to go and stop them.
Wow.
Yeah. Walther. Especially.
Yeah.
More than once. And so, I think more than once. Check the details on that, internet. But
well, he regularly, I know from something I read of his, he regularly struggled with what he called melancholy.
Melancholy, that's right. That's right. You read some stuff by him for a while, didn't you? I think.
I
some
did.
Devotional stuff. Yeah.
I think so.
He was a pious dude. He was a super pious dude. He's a good read, really. Better than Luther in some ways. You know, Luther's always kind of saying the same stuff unless you get his real places where he's studied a lot. But otherwise, he kind of goes back to some very reliable truths. But it can be kind of on repeat a little bit. And Walther is surprisingly ingenuitive when he's not doing his famous stuff, which is mostly cataloging other people's stuff. So his works on church and ministry and on long gospel are more like encyclopedias of what's been said about such things, you know, and he gives his 2 cents and commentaries, you know, but when he writes devotionally, you get a whole different thing. His sermons, you just get, you get why this guy had 3 churches and everyone listened to him if you were a Lutheran.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't stupid, right? This guy was amazing. And yet he worked himself to the bone. Right. So anyway, I'm just announcing that mine's over. I finished. I got through it, and we're ready to get back to work here.
Yay!
It is. It's good.
God be praised.
It's good. I'm excited, Meredith, about the pursuit of calm in our life with the congregation here. Our pursuit of love and hospitality as disciplines, right? That these aren't things we wait around to feel like doing. Right. That they are things that as a group, as a people, once upon a time, everyone did it because we knew we had to survive. Survival got a little easier for a time. And it's not exactly hard yet, but we are noticing the effects of the scorn of those who are at ease, to use a Sons of Solomon psalm reference there, 123. That being at ease can be a real distraction to the pious. And that's not to say leisure is bad or you can't have a phone or any of these things, right? But that we're in a battle for our souls right now. And the battle matters today. And I'm glad to be here in the battle with you because I think that the battle and the adventure is given, right? It is won with a W. And so we are victorious in our sojourn. We're just walking home. How? Well, you just live here till you die. That's how. What if I die? Well, then you made it. But everybody dies. Yep. But not everybody dies trusting in Jesus while they do it. And your life's going to look a little different when you do. It really will. So stop the white noise. Glad to have you here, Meredith.
Well, it's good to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
What are on your note cards? You got paper plenty in front of you. I know you've been
was
reading the
just-
Treasury Daily Prayer. You've been doing Advent devotions with Jeremiah. You're like all over the map, and I don't mind. I'm glad, but I've not kept up. So you can share away.
Well, I last night I told you this morning that I got a little bit lost in the church fathers.
Yeah, right. Valerius Herbert particularly, and to call him a church father is a gentle gratitude. He's a German father. Okay, so the Reformation fathers and the ancients, maybe to distinguish church fathers, but sure.
Yeah, not.
He's in the church fathers section in the Treasury.
In the Treasury.
With Luther, who's like half of the church fathers section in the Treasury. So again, reader, understand, salt, apply.
So, yeah, and I can go into that later, but I was also reading Pius Parsh.
Who I know nothing about. He sounds cool though.
The phrase that I really like of what he wrote is, in paradise, it's not a phrase, it's like a few sentences. In paradise, a fallen angel had promised, eat of this fruit and you will be like God. Man ate and became a prisoner of hell. On Christmas night, another angel, the church, stands before man, offers him a food and says, eat of this and you will be like God. I love the way that he puts those two next to each other. No, it's
the redemption of the story, right?
Right.
And I mean, I guess I would have started maybe with the ones in the air over the shepherds, right? And maybe he does in his sermon that, the angels on high singing Gloria now are saying, here is the bread born in Bethlehem, house of bread, right? Here is the bread of heaven come down, which any man may eat and live forever. And that's powerful. But I like that he went to the angel of the church, because that's Revelation. That is Apocalypse of St. John talk, that the congregation and its pastor are an angelic state. Wow, that's a good way of talking about it, right? The invisible church, the angelic state. That's kind of cool. Messenger state. I kind of want to write that down, but I was going to write down a question I had for you. Which one should I do? The angelic state wins. And we're both writing, so great radio right there. Tying the idea of the pastor as an angel, as John does in Revelation 3, 4, 2, 3. To the whole congregation, I think that's a move that I don't know if Scripture clearly states that somewhere, but it definitely is implied. And it gets toward a question. I mean, I consider this a bit of a riddle in the Old Testament. And this is out of the Sons of Solomon stuff. Again, you start praying something every day and you do it for a couple of years and you really find the questions. Because you answer all of them except the ones you can't. So what does it mean when he says, the swollen waters would have gone over our soul? Plural. Like we, you, I. The church, who's he talking about? Well, you'd have to study that. That's the question, right? But that there can be a soul that's plural, and it's ours. You might call it the spirit of the place, right? I think we do talk that way, but we kind of dismiss it as not really a thing. And the swollen waters going over our soul being connected to the scorn of those who are at ease. Again, there's wisdom there. Sonsofsolomon.net. Please consider picking up a discipline of reading the Bible every day and taking a look at the book that promises to make you wise. And that means if you're not reading it, guess what you are? I'm not going to tell you. Mr. T will. Mr. T. God bless Mr. T. The angel of the church. The angelic state versus the state of the sword, right? So Lutherans are like church state talkers, which is not really either. It's not Luther. Luther is more church, government, family, the three estates, right? He's more into that than the church state. But there is certainly two beasts out of the sea in Revelation again. One with the power of the sword and one with the power of a spirit, and a religious beast and a governing beast. And they join forces when things get really bad most of the time, and they really don't care about you. They care more about the mark of the beast, which I'm now absolutely convinced is the dollar bill, a gold coin, any image that you use to transact is the mark of the beast, which is not to say you can't use the money to transact. It's just, you just got to stop believing that it's not an idol. And then it all makes a lot of sense. Everything makes a lot of sense when you realize that those little Washingtons and Benjamins and all these guys. I mean, it doesn't matter what culture you're in America, what tribe you play for, the spice must flow, baby. And it's idol worship all the way. So to see that, the evil of governance by wicked men and religion of wicked men will join forces to compel you to transact with all men through their religious prosperity of profit for themselves. Well, that's maybe a wake-up call that would make you love the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's not the gospel of Jesus Christ. That would make you love the gospel of Jesus Christ, and love the fact that there's another state then, right? So, and that's the kingdom. So you have the state of the world as we see it. You have the state of government by men as we see it, and that includes and absorbs religion into it and becomes false religion. And the Christian church often is absorbed visibly in such a way. And so we talk about distinction between visible and invisible church. I'm not trying to deny anything. In Articles 7 and 8 of the Augsburg Confession be where I'd point you if you really want to study what I believe, right? If you think, what's he saying? The Augsburg Confession. I am a Lutheran, actually, as opposed to many who maybe bear the name and just like to yell, or only have 3 emotions they can reference. And I started there, so I'll help you if you want. But the governing state of the sword that cares about you using the imagery of their gods in order to keep their system flowing and working, right? Which as a Jew, you were forbidden from participating in, but as a Christian, you are free. Walk in freedom, right? So that's really essential. And in that freedom, the kingdom, which is free, is an angelic state. Which isn't say we're all a bunch of angels flying. No. The word angel means messenger. So sometimes God sends messages by like a burning bush who's himself and his son, and the mystery of the Trinity is at work. Sometimes he sends the angel of the Lord, who's also his son, who is the Trinity at work. And sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he sends a straight up created being that is out of this visible experience that humans have world, but not out of this world. Key about the invisible world is not out of this world. It's this world. Heaven is this world, right? That's why a new heavens, new earth is what is coming, right? Now, if you think of heaven only as where God is forever, okay, but that's not really heaven, right? In any biblical way, not really. I mean, it's the highest of highest heavens, right? It's the holy of holies. It's the inapproachable place. It's a light that no one can get to. You can call it heaven if you want, but then you lose out on what heaven really is, all the rest of it, right? But what is all the rest of it? What heaven is in creation, when God creates the heavens and the earth, the heavens is what he creates that you never get to know about or see. It's the unseen. So he creates the unseen and the seen. That's it. It's not super complex, right? The ancient mind's really, really straightforward. He creates the unseen and the seen. Okay, so in the unseen and the unseen, we have the fall and all this stuff goes on. Right now, in the seen world, the unseen kingdom, state, warfare is at work angelically through the Christian church, and that has everything to do with what the word means, which isn't flying spirit being, but preacher, messenger. Again, it can't be more clear. Someone who comes with a story that's not their own to tell that story. The angelic state is what the Church of Jesus Christ is in this age, and the reason you can't point to it ever as like a visible congregation that like stays that way, or like a tradition or a church body that stays that way, is because that's using the money, which is the other state. Right? That's the government state. You have to do it to have a building. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying understand the distinction between, and this is, again, Article 7 and 8 of the Augsburg Confession. And we can use the language visible church and invisible church, but it just confuses everybody because no one knows what church means even. So no one knows what state means either. When you want to think about what your congregation is that makes it different from the rest of the world, it is the angelic state. That's what it is. Versus the mammon state, the sword state, something like that. So I went off on that there. Can we turn the heat down just a touch? I'm warming up. Uh-oh. There she be. I'm going to, while you do that, introduce the world to ketone. Can you see ketone? Here's ketone. Oh, ketone. I to run off. No one can see ketone. My kids and wife bought me a hamster, which is in my pocket. And I can't believe it. But it's kind of fun. We'll see how it goes. I was checking on her. I kind of lost her for a second. We don't have to talk about hamsters. That was a distraction. You can go back to what I was talking about. Oh, there she is. That was more theologically connected.
So I picked up the treasury because it's Christmas. It's Advent. We're preparing for Christmas, and a lot of what the culture around us pushes us towards thinking about our gifts for people. And I have had a few conversations with people where the concept of why they give gifts came up.
Right.
Why do people give gifts? What kind of gifts do they give, and why? And so I was inspired to look at the idea of gift giving from a biblical perspective. So in the Bible, what are people using gifts for? Is it to make themselves feel better? Is it for themselves? Is it for the other? And what kind of gifts do they give? So what I wanted to know was if there was I had some different places that my mind pulled up from reading scripture that I wrote down, and then I went back and I looked at what actually happened in those different stories. And then I wanted to know if there was a brother in Christ from ages past who would have some other information or another perspective that I could draw from.
Little wisdom from an older time.
Yeah. And I wasn't super successful as far as in the treasury. I didn't find too much. I mean, like what I just read from Pius, like that is specifically referencing the Christmas story. But in the treasury, it's interesting because the Christmas time, or the time of Christmas, is like really long. So there isn't really an epiphany section.
No, it's just the time
it's
after
just like
Christmas, right?
Time of Christmas, and it just keeps
up
going.
to Lent, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And not everything has to do with the incarnation of Christ specifically. I mean, obviously, our whole
the day of Christmas
does.
And the time of Christmas is coming to and away from the day of Christmas toward the day of Calvary, right?
In the treasury, though.
Oh, sure.
Like the readings and the focus, and I didn't specifically look at December 25th. But I was looking at St. Stephen's Day, which is December 26th, and so forth. But I was thinking about you chasing your hamster
a very active little mouse right now.
Through your sleeve. Yeah, she's a baby. She's a Chinese dwarf hamster, and part of the reason we have her is because she's white, and that's very unique. And so when I saw her, I thought, oh my goodness, she's adorable.
She's pretty cute.
But since she is so young, she is so young in her mind as well. And so she just kind of runs and runs and runs and runs. She didn't have a lot of tame attributes at all. She needed to be handled more. So you've done a really good job.
She's doing pretty well.
Her story is that when we got her, we had her in the car in her little box. Man. And our son opened the box to just peek at her, and she literally jumped out of the box.
She was ready.
And then ran under a seat in the car. And it was, I don't know, beginning to be winter weather, like really cold that night. So I had to pull off of the road and into a well-lit parking lot so we could try to find her. We ended up having to dismantle a few pieces of the car so that we could get to her. They're put back, But yeah. Here she is, Ketone.
Yeah, I can't see her on the
the
camera at all.
most powerful hamster.
Can't see her. There she is. Gets here. Ooh.
But anyhow.
Anyway, you're talking about more valuable stuff. I'm going to put her back in her
Yeah, I'm
her
trying
box
to
here in a
talk
moment.
about this concept of gift giving. And what I've heard said is, oh, well, I give gifts for myself. It makes me happy. And that just didn't, it didn't really set well with me. There she is. If you're watching, you can see her body scurrying quickly in the camera. Maybe. Sweet little girl. So I went to, there's the obvious Christmas story gift giving scenario with the Magi giving gifts to Christ. And that's in Matthew 2, verse 11. I did go to Luke. I was like, oh, I wonder what the Luke passage says about the Magi. And they're actually not there.
No.
So Matthew's the only one.
Yeah, you didn't know that. I thought that was fairly common. All pastors know this.
I'm sure you do. And I just assume that Luke has the more complete
the Magi are not part of the Christmas
story.
The Magi are not part of the Christmas story.
Yeah.
Really. If you're going to be all, screaming geek about it.
Mm-hmm. So I look and, what are the gifts that the Magi give? Is it to make each one of the wise men feel good about themselves, or is it to actually honor?
Well, you're entering on a debate that no one has an answer to in terms of what those gifts mean, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay. Like there's an answer and it's obvious, and then we argue about it.
But is it to honor who Christ is, what he's come to do, and what he's going to do? Like, is that the idea?
It is. But I would suggest that, because it's going to work against your point a little bit, which I don't disagree with your point.
Okay, well, we'll just keep on going then.
But,
we don't have to.
No, but it's worth looking at it though, as a theology, because the thing is, a gift giver is going to have inspiration to give the gift too, right? So it can't be without your own desire arising, and if you find the thing disgusting, it'll be very hard to give it to somebody, right? So the Magi are a great example then in that we don't know who these guys were. We don't know why these three things are mentioned. Did each one bring one? Did they each represent a different place? I mean, none of that do we know, but it's all a riddle for you to ponder, right? Mm-hmm. And then what you're going to see and you chase after it with the theology that they're going to give you anytime anybody writes about this, they should give you, of how these things are pointing to the offices of Christ, of who he is and what he will do. So they're gifts unto his future. They're gifts based on who he is. And that's your point, right? But then there's great potential here that, in fact, they're gifts based on who they are too. And that's not bad. It doesn't have to be bad. But selfishness makes everything bad, right? And so that's where your riddle that you're pulling on is a good one. I don't want to dismiss it just because I think that there can be a case made against it. I want to make your case stronger.
Oh, well,
right?
thank you. Yeah, so the one thing I've heard said is it's for me. I give the gift for me, or I make the gift for me, and then I give it. The thing is, well, I like this and want them to have it. So that's another funny little thing. It's
so natural though. It's like, it's very maternal because it's very nesty. Okay. It's very nesty. It's what you do with a nest. And there's also this point at which, I mean, if somebody, you go to a foreign land and somebody like hands you something they made and it's like a little strip of leather that has been sewn on and it's kind of weird looking and you don't want it at all. But like, this is like the tribal elder and he made it, it's for you. And so like, where is the line again, right? Between, I like to be creative and I'm not even listening to you. Right. And that's where your riddle and wrestling comes in a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's also this, like, I heard a woman saying, walking through Walmart talking on her cell phone, and she was saying, I'm searching for what this child in my life wants. And so then there's this compelling nature to please at all costs.
Yeah, right.
And there has to, as I seek to have a gentler, simpler outlook on life,
Right.
there has to be a way that I can think on this part of our year that comes every 365 days, and that can lower my blood pressure. And I know that that's kind of what is spurring the thought of, well, it's for me. I give it because it makes me happy.
Mm-hmm.
But then does the person receiving it, like,
What's the point of the gift?
why are you not just making yourself the gift, or just doing that for yourself? You know, like if you really enjoy cross stitch, well, why don't you cross stitch for yourself?
Yeah, because there's something natural in the human condition which makes us want to make things to give to others.
Right.
And we live at a time where we're so confused that people are gonna make all sorts of stuff and give it away. And it's what it is. There's something really beautiful about it. There's something not beautiful about being in relationships with people who don't know who you are, right? That's not beautiful. But, there's something very childish. What does a kid do at Christmas when they realize gifts are being given, right? They go and they get all the little pieces of plastic and rubber and pennies that they have, and they wrap them up and they give them to people. Mm-hmm. Why? There's just something really beautiful about the desire to share, right? But now what you're wrestling with again is that it's industrialized itself into profiteering and idolatry. So there's not a lot of sharing really going on. And so it's under the veil of sharing is a whole lot of arrogance and dismissiveness, scoffing even at times. And so how do you peel back that layer? But that's where first principle thinking, right? To make the case against yourself as you make the case is going to keep you as clean in your own final results as possible, right? And so, yeah.
What does that mean? I don't mean to be dense, but like first principle, making the case against yourself as you make the case,
right,
keeps you clean.
Yeah.
Can you unpack that?
In your thinking, as you're trying to learn something and something of value, first principle thinking assumes there's only a few things of deep value. And once you have them, you don't need anything new. You only need to return to what you have, and then that will sharpen what you see, or it will dismiss what you see. So in your search for my question written is, what is the point of a gift? What is the biblical point of a gift? And I have the natural desire for shared pleasure is written down so far. Because what's too easy to do is to let your personal experience or the thing that causes you to search for the answer to a question, your context, the winds about you, what you saw that day recently, right? Mm-hmm. All of that gets in your answers. And if you don't have first principle thinking, you're just going to take whatever you got today and you're going to use it today. And then next week you use whatever you got next week. And you're going to wonder why everything didn't go the way you thought it was supposed to, or how you got where you got. Whereas first principle thinking, because you're going to think the same thing regularly, you're going to do the same thing regularly, you're never going to wonder how you got where you got. You're going to know exactly how you got where you got. You went there on purpose, or you saw it coming. Either of those things. And this is something that you don't have to be a Christian to do. This is what makes Elon Musk who he is. He likes to think this way too. I didn't learn it from him, but it's part of what I like about him is I can learn from him now. I can look at what he does and I can mimic a little bit. Because first principle thinking is powerful. It is kind of like being a mathematician with your thoughts, only you're not going to use math. You're just going to, after arithmetic, you're kind of done. Mm. Like you can go on to algebra, but not for life really, and so, what are those things that for you are those principles? There's an edge at which it's going to be unique to you. What are those principles that drive you? Why do I make digital art, not paint? Right? Why? And there's reasons, right? What about you, right? So there's that. But then there's also the first principles that we share. And so to align those first principles that are natural to you, which can be good or bad depending on context, but to align them with those first principles that are shared by all is to find your place in the order, in the design, right? And to be part of something very, very good, even while there are going to be thorns and thistles. And then, so I suggest to you that a great set of first principles, the Sermon on the Mount, Proverbs 1-9, Ecclesiastes as a book, right? The Psalter, 1, 2, 3, 1-10, 16, 23, 27, 118, 119, over and over again. Yeah, which one do you want, right? Like, you pick some first principle. It's the same word of God. So there really is one first principle for the Christian, the word of God. You could say law and gospel, right? You can say before conversion, in conversion, after conversion. The way that the experience of our life with God breaks down, his first principles are refractive. So they're not like the principles of men. So if I had to say in a word his first principle, it is chesed, right? Like his first principle is mercy, loyalty. That's who he is. But that turns into many things. I for my first principles, yada, kakma, umusar. Right? So I've taken from mercy, and I will not let mercy nor truth forsake me, but that knowledge, okay, that's to know. And then that knowledge is distinct from wisdom and discipline. So now that I know it, it will give me wisdom if I discipline myself according to it, if I'm a disciple of it. And so applying that back to Proverbs reading, Psalm reading as a disciple, now those are my first principles. But it's not like I need to go to Proverbs 18:23 to like tell you about this. Instead, it just becomes my language. I don't even have to quote it. It just is what I think it say. And by no means have I attained this to some level where I get scared when I think I lose my mouse and scream, right? Like I did the other day. I didn't scream quite, I yelled. So by no means do I intend this to be heard as some kind of boast. But it is a way of thinking that I think is biblical in the first place, because it's designer oriented, right? Yeah, I don't think Elon Musk believes in radical designless evolution. I don't think he can, because he believes in design too much. Is what he does. He designs. So the first principles are about believing there's a design in the nature, in the creation, however you look at it. If it's accidental, it's still designed. And then seeking for those answers to questions that answer the most questions. Yeah. So what is the point of a gift? Well, the answer to that question's not going to be something that's like against the 10 Commandments or not in line with the creed, right? And so those are first principles too, and those are the catechism for a reason.
Yeah, that's
right?
a good idea. Mm-hmm.
So, in fact, so the first principles of the Christian church on earth in history are the creeds, the 10 Commandments, and the Lord's Prayer. All right. Indubitably, unquestionably, you can disagree and think you have a better idea, but you're late to the game, baby. Way late. You don't get make up stuff now. Right, so it's established what this catecheko thing is. I wrote a book called Echo about it, and those are good. Using them in the right way is good. They're all over the Proverbs. You can't miss it. That's just the thing. So Proverbs is like a catechism on a catechism without using the word catechism and making you memorize it and go to class. And so I found it very useful. It's more fun. Fun's not really the way you would judge it, though. It's less foolish, frankly, the path. It's not that the 10 Commandments are foolish, but what we do with them, I think, is a little foolish, actually. Especially since we kind of use them to make them go away. Like, none of us breaks them, but we all know we all break them all the time. And so there's like no sin and shame all the time in our, it's weird. So, so I don't want to dismiss them as first principles, but when Lutherans, point to the catechism as their first principle, they don't even mean what I just said either. They don't mean the 10 Commandments, the Creed, the Lord's Prayer. They mean a bunch of other stuff. Usually not even the stuff that was what Luther did. It's other stuff from later. And so, you know, you can't just say the catechism is the first principle of the church. It won't work now. We all will have to answer Jesus' question, who do you say he is? And you're going to want to give an answer from the Bible. The ancients had this catechism thing for a reason, because they thought it lined it all up real nice and you could find your way with it, right? I'm suggesting that's what Solomon actually did with the book. Like he just figured out and knew he was born to write for us today, like latter days, to find our way through it. So, first principle of thinking is believing there are things that don't change, believing there is truth that always applies. And so that's what I'm trying to do with your search, because I mean, the biblical point of a gift, this loyal, merciful God, I mean, he is the giver, right? I mean,
right.
that's in some ways his name. So the point of the gift is always going to be that to give as a man is to be godlike. But then that would mean the best gifts will be given the way God gives, which will involve the good of the individual above all things, and no strings attached, except goodness. You know, lots of good strings attached, no evil strings attached.
Yeah. So then the next story that came to mind was the Queen of Sheba giving gifts to
interesting.
Solomon.
Yeah.
And I looked it up in it's 1 Kings chapter 10.
Thank you.
And why is she coming? And it actually says to test him, to figure out, is it true that he has as much wisdom as is reported? I
mean, can I phrase it differently, though? I mean, given how Jesus speaks about her, her question was, oh, this king actually does speak for God? This guy actually is the avatar of the Most High? Well, I should probably check that out. I'll take a lot of money, see what come back with. She came back with more.
Right.
Wisdom to boot. And then Jesus says, she will condemn you who don't believe in me, because she came to hear Solomon, and one greater than Solomon is here. Right.
Yeah.
Whew. So,
yeah. So
sister in Christ right there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So she brings him oodles of things.
Yep.
And then he, like you said, sends her away with more.
It's a trade though too. So see it as it's an alliance. Like it's a both and, right? What you come out of this is you get a peace treaty between Solomon, who is a burgeoning market nation power, and Sheba, which was a market seafaring power. Think the spice trade, but on the water to India kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And so what they do is she comes because she hears, and she listens, but they effectively form an alliance too then, which is going to bring trade from her up to him and from him down to her, and then that makes them both wealthier, because when I only have vanilla and you only have cinnamon, and then we trade, now we both have both. It's great, right? So that's kind of the way that would work for the peoples. When those who are the elites care about the peoples, they'll try to enact good trade.
Yeah.
And anyhow, so that's going on underneath all of it, and yet somewhere in their conversation, it's about Yahweh and the Messiah and the sinful fall of mankind and the birth of the Son of David to save the world. And she walks away saying, "It's true, it's true, it's true." And I think you have to take that from what Jesus says about her, right? I mean, I didn't read those words. He didn't say it's true, it's true, it's true, but she had to say amen. He said amen, So through an interpreter, I wonder, did he speak her language? How many languages did he know? How smart was he?
I find it really interesting. So it talks about her bringing gold, spices in great quantity, and precious stones. And then it continues to talk about what happened. So the ships of Hiram, which brought gold from Ophir, brought great quantities of almug wood, and precious stones from Ophir. And then, so King Solomon, it continues to say, he went on to use this wood for the steps going up to the house of the Lord. So he puts her gift to work.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not sure. I'm pretty confident, though, that he uses the wood to make harps and stringed instruments. Or was that the gold? Because it says, so he made steps of the almug wood for the house of Jesus Christ and for the king's house, also harps and stringed instruments for singers.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it sounds like it could be either, but it sounds like it's the wood.
Yeah.
He may have, everything got overlaid with gold too, even if it was good wood. So.
And then in response, so this is her gift to him.
Right.
And his response is then to give up to half his kingdom to her.
Is that what he says?
Oh, no.
No, I don't think so.
It's all she desired, whatever she asked, besides what Solomon had given her according to the royal generosity. So there's some sort of like...
he just has a prepared gift of all the fruits of the land. Like what you would give is what you have, right? So what are you good for? What do you make? You're going to give that. And so he's already got that. And then anything else she wanted. She was like, I like this. He's like, take it.
Yeah.
She's like, I like this. He's like, it's my only one. Take it.
Yeah.
You know?
Very generous.
She's like, really? Well, I like that too. He's like, all right, take it. You know, because why? I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of riffing on it a little bit, but because why? What does he know? It's there for sharing, and he'll get more. More is coming. Why worry? You know, it's not about prosperity. It's about contentment. It's about contentment. Okay. The true prosperity of the soul is contentment. The true prosperity gospel is contentment. The true deposit of the Holy Spirit is contentment. Right. Envy is what we fight against. Idolatry is envy. Right? So the power of contentment is the power to know it's here to share, and you'll get more when you need it. And if tomorrow hurts, well, duh.
Well, and that's an interesting point. So then if we go on to Abigail's gift to David, in 1 Samuel chapter 25.
Yeah, sure.
That whole scenario is built around a man who has enough to give and is actually giving it in the form of a party. Mm-hmm. And then others who he didn't have on his invitation list come along, and he's unwilling to open up and be hospitable. Yeah. And so then Abigail, we're speaking about Nabal, or Nabal.
Mm-hmm. Excuse me.
And then, so Abigail, his wife, recognizes what his greed or lack of hospitality is going to bring upon his head, and goes with a gift then to David and his army, asking it's kind of, the gift is a peace offering, essentially. Mm-hmm. Please forgive. And he does. And the way she speaks to him is so eloquent. We as women can take note of it, the way that she respects him, the way that something that's recently come across in reading the way that women interact with men is they are not hesitant to call them their Lord. And like if you were to go to the Amplified Bible, it would talk about master. It would say my Lord, and then in parentheses, master, authority, or leader. But it's convicting, it's refreshing to see the readiness with which I think as Christian women, we're nervous about calling anybody Lord.
Yeah, sure. Modern people wouldn't want to do it. We don't have kings, you know.
And yet, if we look in Scripture, it's just how you address a man.
Well, I believe, now I'm going to lose the word. When... the word you would use for Mr. In Spanish is the word they use.
Señor.
Yeah, Señor. Lord. That's Jesus. El Señor. The Lord. The Lord. It's not even that, and it's not that high in a sense of like, it's not a hoity-toity word.
And it's not capitalized.
Because any man would be like, my Lord. Right? Hello, my Lord. Hello, Señor. Right? It's an old way of thinking. And we, kingless people, so-called, theoretically, we just are very uncomfortable with any type of authority. We want to think everything's communist and leveled playing field. We're not communists, we swear, but we sure think like them. So, yeah, it makes us uncomfortable to imagine that there is a distinction between us.
And so my own challenge, my own conviction is leading me as I recognize where our lack of respect for authority is getting our society, what it's doing to our young men, what it's done to our mature men. I am being challenged to, in my own way, just kind of take a different approach, and saying yes, sir, or thinking, if you're not going to say it out loud, yes, my Lord, or hello, my Lord, is going to put you into a different frame of mind to speak towards somebody in a different way. We have less ability to, or I have found it's harder to be just kind of, well, we were talking about this last night, our society's kind of slangy way of speaking to each other, to a point of being disrespectful. Like it's so casual that it just slips into the disrespectful realm.
It's cavalier.
Quickly.
It's cavalier. Someone just shared how in Texas they say boss instead of hey. I've had that. Hey, boss. And it's just a way of, it's Mr. It's Mr. And we used to use Mr. as our standard English. We still do. We write it to people and whatever, right? That's the word Lord. Master. That's the word master, in fact. It is the word master. So not as of a slave per se, because you would again say, good day, sir, to anybody, right? And so now you wouldn't say good day, sir, to a woman, however. And so you might call another man my Lord out of respect to him, but not the way you would refer to your husband, though, as well, right? So there's the word just didn't have the baggage that we've somehow given it now. It's got a lot of baggage to the level where, again, if I say the Lord, no one thinks, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, no one thinks that. They think like the scary God instead. And why is that? Why is it that Jehovah's Witnesses can say it's so personal to call God by his first name, Jehovah, and then they all do it, and we're like, yeah, but Jesus, and then we don't do it? It's weird. It's weird. I must have got poked again by someone recently that made me, I can't remember now though. Where like every time someone goes, why do you do that? It's like, I know they mean it well. I just, after you've given the answer and given the answer and given the answer, it's sometimes you just don't know why it's not obvious to people anymore. Like it feels like it should be obvious, right? So, boss. Hey, boss.
Yeah, that happens in parenting. I mean, if somebody comes up to you, if one of your children comes up to you and is doing something and you say, please don't do that. The first time it's very, very kind and patient.
Yeah, the third
and
and
let me
fourth
tell
time.
you why and what I've been contemplating and in order to give you this direction. And then by the time the fifth one does the same thing, you're like, would you stop that now? There's no, and then the poor fifth child that got that response is like, what happened? So yeah, I mean, it's a thing.
Yeah, it's frustrating that it is a thing. It's so sad. Recognizing
that not everybody is everywhere.
Yeah.
And here's it is hard to do. Another example was in 1 Samuel 16 when Jesse sends gifts to Saul through David. So Saul requests David to come and be in his service. Right. And Jesse then sends his son, but along with a whole bunch of gifts. And then later in chapter 17, he sends cheeses to the captain of the army that is over his sons.
Did you say cheeses?
I did.
Cheeses for all? Cheeses for all.
Interestingly enough, 10 cheeses.
Yeah.
Complete.
So again, you send what you have. And notice how, so the king doesn't demand it, but the king is there and the king is talking to you. So you're like, well, I'm going to make sure the king remembers me. I'm going to give him a nice gift. Everyone just did that as best they could because it is good for you. So the gift giving in the natural world is very much about politics, social order and recognition, symbolism, all those kinds of things too. Yeah, it's not just about the good of the other and my desire to share. But that's where the Christian can redeem the natural, right?
Yeah. And the one what's interesting to me about Jesse sending the cheeses is that his intention is, David, I need to know what your brothers are up to. I need a report. In today's, we would have just said, hey, just go to the neighbor's house. What are your siblings doing? And tell them supper's coming soon or to come home. But
it was a long way he sent him, by the way. It's a long trek, but yeah.
But he sends a gift to the captain as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, he could have just sent David on his way, is my point.
But he
honors the leader.
He's wise enough to not, Nabal is a fool. Mm-hmm. Jesse is wise enough to see that
you honor the leader.
If it's in your interest to have my interests be served, then that's in my interests. Mm-hmm. So if I make it clear to you that I'm a benefit to you as your subject, then why would you hurt me?
Right.
And if everyone knows that, well, that everyone knows that, and it works kind of nice. Yeah. What everyone knows right now is whatever I feel, you're supposed to shut up and let me say it now. We're a long way from gift giving to keep society functioning peaceably. Now, again, fools are fools whenever they are, but when they're in charge, sometimes they burn the house down again. So beware.
And then the last example that I could think of that just came to mind, was he sends his oldest servant when he's looking for a wife for Isaac. He specifically chooses his oldest servant and sends him with 10 camels. Again, the number 10, complete. Number of camels to Laban. Yep. And then gives gifts to Rebekah, but then also to Laban and Laban's wife. Once Rebekah says, yes, I will go back and be Isaac's
which is dowry related a little bit.
Right.
And sort of like, hey, I'm a guy out of the desert to take your daughter away. So
let me prove
a little bit. Like, at least whoever sent me may not be the guy I'm saying I am, but how would anyone know who that guy is? But whoever he is, he's got plenty of cash. So your daughter's going to be taken care of.
Yeah. And that story is in Genesis 24. Verse 53 specifically is where they talk about the gifts. What I love about that story is the blessing that is given to Rebekah by her family. So they're like, give us more time with Rebekah. Don't take her so soon. And then she says, no, I'll go now. It's okay. And sorry, I'm trying to find the spot so that I can quote it specifically. And so then her family blesses her. Our sister, and this is in Genesis chapter 24, verse 60. Our sister, may you become the mother of thousands of 10,000s, and may your descendants possess the gates of those who hate them. As a wedding blessing, that's just a beautiful, a beautiful gift to give. But so anyhow, that was my quest in scripture to figure out, okay, what is the common, I guess, what's the first principle that I see in all of these stories as gifts are being given? And it was definitely honoring the person, respecting the person, showing favor or receiving favor from them. So then you give a gift back and forth. And then sometimes the gifts were payment or a plea for mercy.
Yeah. So what you see then is that rarely are the gifts grace alone, right? Yeah. Sometimes they are, but not really.
So then in that respect, I was like, okay, well now I want to think about God giving gifts to us. Mm-hmm. And in his son Christ, Jesus Christ, how did he do this? And so then I found some writings by Valerius Herberger. And this is actually in the Treasury of Daily Prayer under the writings for St. Stephen's Day, which is December 26th. And he points out that Stephen means crown or garland. And I believe this must have been in a sermon, like just the layout of what he's writing. Right. Must have been a St. Stephen's Day sermon. And he talks about how there are 4, and he calls them virgin garlands that are given to the church. And the first one is righteousness gifted. And that's like being given the Holy Spirit. Mm-hmm. The second one is, and this is what I couldn't remember when I was talking to you about it this morning. The second garland is righteousness begun. And why garland? Well, because Stephen means garland.
Yeah,
and so he was like trying to play on it.
Yeah, they call it it's a hook.
So we could do crown. We could do.
Yeah, but it's more important. Is he's trying to play a play on. It has nothing to do with Stephen in the section that we're reading on. It has everything to do with. There's 4 things he thinks are important. Forget the garland and the crown part. He thinks 4 things are important. One is the gift of righteousness. One is
righteousness begun.
The beginning
of the life.
Right, active righteousness. Mm-hmm. And then
the third one was the cross and thorns.
Yeah, which is suffering in the present age, or the glory of suffering.
And then, the fourth was perfect righteousness.
Right, which is salvation. The completion of the final day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And specifically, I was cued into this section of writing because of the idea behind righteousness gifted.
Oh, okay.
And
right, that's how you found this.
Right. And I should have looked at another one too, but it's about circumcision, because I think it was going to talk about the state of Abraham having had faith prior to the promise or the covenant being made to him.
Right.
And that would go along with this righteousness gifted idea as well. So
if it is by works, it is not by grace.
So conclusion, I don't really I don't know that buying a gift for somebody that I want them to have, even though I know they don't love that color or don't even use something that would do that.
Right.
It's something I want to pursue as I pursue a life that that has a deeper meaning to my actions. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's my conclusion there with regards to gift giving. I want to honor the people in my life with my gifts. And the one thing that I don't know that I can speak to quite yet is the guilt. Like this need to, feeling like I have to give a gift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because
the market economics of
honestly,
holidays.
Though, we see this. It's not that the Queen of Sheba. I don't know. I mean, you give a gift. You're going to a king. And
I'm
so
sure that she went through anxiety on the way to visit Solomon. I'm sure she had thorns in her walk. I mean, her day was filled with sin and trouble. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just all pretty and roses the whole way. Or again, the roses had plenty of thorns. So you're in no different of a place, really. I think the thing, again, I chatted at it a moment ago, is to see how much of the gift giving that we have as Americans is rather moral obligation to the market, couched in nostalgic sentimentality, so that we give gifts to people who we don't like because we're supposed to, so that they won't know we don't like them, in an ever-expanding circle of ever cheaper stuff that we didn't even make. All as part of a Ponzi scheme, I think, but whatever, Fed. They're all schemes, men's schemes and devices at some point. I'm with you. It's why I've always resisted so many of the expectations that market celebrations put on me. Is I don't like have-tos, and a gift I have to give doesn't seem like generosity to me. It seems like taxation.
Right.
And I'd rather be really generous. I want to be a very generous man, and I work at it. I like it. I like it when I get to be, but that involves less like making sure I get someone something because they're on my list, and more about what I have and what I find that reminds me of others I want to try to share with them, give to them, right? And I want what is mine to be shared with those who are mine, and vice versa. And then I want to be wise into the ways of the world, so that I understand the symbolic value of gift giving within a system. So that now, rather than pine or worry about gifts I don't want or do want to give, I realize that this is a political system that I live in, and that part of it involves sending certain things at certain times a year to make sure that we all believe we're still working together for peace, safety on our streets, and things like that. Even though it's kind of clear there's division about that, right? But nonetheless, the system of symbolism, the offices to be honored right now are, near family, near friends, recognize the ties of the natural order that still exist, however rarely we may ever talk to each other otherwise. And so, okay, seeing it for that, then I'll get my heart out of it a bit. Stop thinking about it so much. Stop worrying about what I get. Sheesh. And instead, consider, what does redeeming giving look like? Honor the office. See it as a reciprocal. It's good that it's going to be good for you, but not if it's not good for them, right? Honor the office in a way that's good for them, and it will be good for you. First principle kind of thing, right? It's not complex once you just let that be what drives you. Honor the office for the good of the office. It will be good for all. Dad does need socks, after all, Not that I'm asking for socks, but those things are, those are the gifts that matter, really. And then if you're gonna make something, that's fine. You made art, and it's your art. All right, someone gave you art. Cool. I got art. No one likes my art. Okay, that's the way it is.
Right.
So, but then the idea that fits into our. But last year you gave me a $30 gift certificate. It doesn't quite solve the riddle of carnal desire and the hope for this sort of abundance of pleasure as we all get these things we've been wanting so badly and never can get, right? But the problem is now at this point in America, the stuff you're getting for Christmas, most of it you can get anytime you want, unless you're rich kids getting what your parents are giving you. You can get anytime you want. So Little House on the Prairie, I imagine Christmas Day was kind of an important day, and whatever you got, like, you needed it. It made life better,
right?
And now I walk by Menards. I walked by a guy in the toy section of Menards because you have to go by it, and he had this look on his face. He's an older man. He had to be in his 60s or 70s, tall. And a look on his face of just dire and utter confusion. And he had this box that was about this big, I don't know what, it's 12 by 6. And he's flipping it over. And he was trying so hard to figure out what this thing was or what it's supposed to do. And I'm looking, I see the box, $3.99. $3.99, right? He's like, his life is struggling for $3.99. I just said, wow. And he's thinking about somebody. Like, he's trying to. $3.99 though. Golly.
Well, this is the dialogue that I encountered that started me on this quest. Go ahead.
Instead of buying me a gift for $3, give me the $3 for that little. If you want to buy me a gift, buy me something I can't buy. Otherwise, if we're just exchanging cash, like it's my Amazon account and your Amazon account, only we buy for each other this month, like I just don't see it. It's not a gift, right? And that's kind of it's an exchange. It's fine. It's the market. It's a chance to reach out and touch people. There's all that. But there's something I'm very jaded about it.
Right. Well, and this is the dialogue that gave me pause. The receiver of the gift said, "Wow, that's so kind." And the giver of the gift said, no, I'm not being kind. I'm actually doing it for myself.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I just thought, like, my heart for the receiver was like, ouch.
Yeah, right.
You know, because that took them completely out of it. So,
Right.
so essentially,
You might as well just say, I don't care about you to somebody.
right.
Yeah.
So the giver of the gift was, basically saying, I don't care. It's all about how much I can pile up under my Christmas tree and say, see how much I've given. I think. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the benefit of it is. I mean, in one sense, that
well, again, there's a natural desire by every human to give what we own and do what we are to those who are closest to us.
Mm-hmm.
We just do it. It's good. It just, we live in a very uncivil time when words are said that aren't understood by the speaker. Folly is rampant.
So, I mean, in the one sense, like when I heard the giver in Walmart speaking on the cell phone about like how enslaved to this child's list she was. If I take a step back, I almost see more love and devotion going into that.
Yeah.
Than the one who's like, no, I am being overly generous, but I'm actually doing it for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's failing in a different direction.
It's really, really an interesting thing. And I couldn't let it go without looking deeper into.
Well, and the whole thing, if you think about what is the gospel of Jesus Christ, it is the free gift of salvation from God the Father to us in his Son. And so the attacks that the devil has taken on the Christian church in the present day are not like the attacks of the Reformation age, where it was about law courts and how you can make your biblical case in like worldly terms and prove your right so that you get to keep preaching to the people. Now the attack is more on the substantial realities of Christendom and Christianity and God, like fatherhood, manhood, and what a gift is. What is Christmas time now, right? Where we give gifts for Christmas. Does it have anything to do with Jesus? People have been complaining about for like since we've been born, right? Mm-hmm. So it shouldn't be news to anybody that the reason for the season is like a card, because it's not. You see, like we should own that real deep, kids. It's not the reason for the season for everybody else, and won't be anytime soon. So, I mean, God could bring repentance to Israel, but the story usually involves some fire. So, stealing the word gift from us, and making our entire season of celebrating the gift of God in salvation in Christ about marketing economics, social justice within the family, shame and retribution through who can provide the most stunning display of charity that we all must give back. So there's not a whit of charity anywhere in any of it. It's all equivocation. It's going to attack our faith in the gospel itself. It's going to destroy what the word gift means. How do you know what the word gifts means? It doesn't mean no strings attached now, does it? Otherwise, I wouldn't have to give one. Oh, but wait, I have to give one. So therefore, it's strings attached before I even start. Mm-hmm. It's not a gift. Not in the sense of the gospel, not in grace, right? And so I think the wisdom, again, is to see that the real value of gift giving is the symbolic honoring of the offices by which we are tied to each other, so that through a form of like forwarded hospitality, right? So they come to your house, you share. Well, you're not coming to my house, so I'm going to take my hospitality, I'm going to go attack with it. I'm going to attack you with my hospitality. Hey, I have a candle, and where this has found the most fun in my life is it started really realizing that, and we don't eat out much anymore, but when we do, we ate out somewhere in the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, we had a gift card.
That's right. Oh, and so it was easy to tip high. But still, no, like I always try to, at this point, I always try to overtip by $3 or $4 because I'm blessed that $3 or $4 really doesn't mean that much to me. I think there are people in the world and people in America where they can't say that. But to me, $3 or $4, you need it, you got it. You come to my door, you knock, you need $3. I mean, you got to find me, but I'll help you. You know, and it's not that hard to share $3 or $4. Well, the power of knowing that I have plenty, and so I want to have that happen. I don't want to cling to my $3. I want to have the opportunity to share the $3. Every time it goes by, it's like, that's good. I want it again. And so, now it racks itself up to $200. So what? How much money is that? Again, you know how much it costs to go out to eat really now? For a family, I was just seeing Chick-fil-A for family of 4 is like $80. So like again, to see that a gift, if you want to recapture giving, it's a spirit of outward and even offensive generosity. And that will do, the reason it's valuable is when it serves the office. When you are generous toward the office, the office will respond in the person, right? You can't separate yourself from your office. And when it's called up, you then react according to it. Right? If you call your parents by their first name and then you call them by their office, it will change things. It will change things. That makes me wonder a little bit about all these kind of names by which we don't have grandfathers. We got a lot of not grandfathers around, right? And we started with grandpas, right? But we got a lot of other names floating around. I don't know. Everyone's got their own little, funny word they say. But what's gone is an older father who is, a patriarch. It's just gone. Yeah. So, gifts. There's a lot there. You went deep on that just in the last 24 hours? That was all that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, the way my brain works is I start thinking, and then I start thinking deeper, and then I start writing down. And once I start writing down, then I start going into the books.
Yeah,
and
right.
Searching and searching and...
My little wizard wife. I got you. You start going. Next thing you got, you get 4 books open, and you've not even moved out of one verse. And you're like, what's going on? But I found answers. You got to hear about this. No one wants to. It's a little too deep. But yeah. That's good. That's how wisdom grows, is through that. If I say convex, does that make sense? I'm in this one book, and then I'm sent to this other book. I'm sent to this other book, and they never wrote together. They didn't know each other. They didn't work together. But now here, I, as a fourth or whatever, become the place where they interfuse, and then I am the result in regard to discernment. What did I reject, right? What did I absorb and hold? And that's how you grow.
Yeah. I'm on another note. I mean, do we have time to keep going?
Oh yeah, I think so. We only got one question today.
Okay.
It's not short. There's plenty to talk about with other stuff too, I guess. But
so I'm just gonna hit all the sensitive topics.
I'm just like,
this morning.
I said I was tired yesterday. I've been working on like lowering my adrenal during this time. Well, success means I'm tired. I'm actually really tired.
Oh.
Like I can go to bed right now, which is not normal. Normally I'm strung because I'm driven to like perform.
Yeah.
So this is good news, everybody. I'm actually not entirely performing right now, but it's kind of embarrassing. So you can definitely take the mic for a moment. I promise not to fall asleep, even if my eyes close.
This is well, I have to talk to you about this.
I'm going to listen.
I definitely need.
I'm going to listen. I'm just going to rest my weary eyes.
Okay, so we were given, I'm just going to tell the whole story all out.
All right. Well, then if I do fall
Dr.
asleep.
Kuntz gave us a Christmas gift a few years back that it's a book by J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's his letters that he wrote to his sons and children. I don't know if he only has sons, but in the first part, it's 2 boys. Every year at Christmas time, he wrote them a letter. And it was very creative and well written and sparked imagination and fantasy and, you know, put all of his, sometimes he'd draw pictures, these beautiful pictures. And it's all compiled into this book. Well, the title of the book is Letters from Father Christmas. So just like, here's a spoiler alert. I don't even know what to say. Warning, like if you guys do Santa Claus, turn the video off now.
Oh, wait. So let me just talk about how in, how do I say this? Yeah. If you got kids, we're going to burst your bubbles. Father Christmas is the proto Santa Claus, pre-Santa Claus, not St. Nicholas himself, who's the real guy, but the proto English version. You'll get this in the Christmas Carol. Yeah. You know, and does he have a red cape?
He does. He has a little red cape. He has a polar bear, so I'm assuming that's part of the legends.
He wrote it all the way north, found some reindeer, thought that's better, make a sleigh. America industrialized. It was a Ford. No one knows it, but the sleigh's a Ford.
There are little sketches of him so instead of elves, he has a polar bear that helps him. Yeah. I do believe he has reindeer because there are sketches with him and his sleigh and reindeer. Okay. He does fly around or go around the world on Christmas Eve and do his gift giving. So it's very it's like, it is Santa Claus pre Coca-Cola. He's more of a grandfather, like you were saying, you know, Papa Grampy is more this vending machine in the sky, whereas Father Christmas is more of the wizened father of old.
Yes.
So I was reading through the book. I got out yesterday our Christmas book collection, and I kind of was flipping through some of them, and I was like, you know what? If everybody's sitting down around by me, I'm just gonna flip this open while they eat their sardine lunch, and we'll read a few. And I read them, and the kids were engaged enough, like it was a fun story, and our son even picked it up once I put it down and kept reading a few more. And because we do not celebrate, let's see, how do I say this? Because we do not subscribe to the fairy tale of Santa Claus, but actually do celebrate the idea that one day in paradise we will be with St. Nicholas, you know,
and St. Augustine and St. Chrysostom and Valerius Herberger and and the Baptist down the street and
so so our kids were a little bit like confused, and some of the older ones were like, I was reading through that book and I just thought, what did he say to them about Jesus? Like, when did he say, oh, and by the way, this was all a lie? I mean, how? So I was a little concerned. I know he is lauded as a Christian and somebody that we might even have as
the
devotional
godparents to our kids, right? So like so you're like, oh, interesting. So then rest of the story.
Well, the rest of the story is, here I am. I'm like, Jonathan, like, what do I know. Here's this book by this guy.
I thought you read it. You said it was funny.
I mean, it was funny.
Yeah, that's what it is.
But like, I don't know. So we're talking to our kids are starting to talk about, like, when I have children, what do I want to do?
Right. Yeah.
And they definitely do not want Santa Claus.
Right.
In the picture of Christmas.
So, well, look at the book that was right beside it on the table that I bought.
The one about Samurai Santa? Yeah. I did. So that was the next one I read.
Same kind of.
And I was like, this is really weird. Like, if I don't know about Santa Claus, I'm going to have to explain a lot about
what this is. Who is this
really
guy?
strange. And
Yeah.
why is he bending in half going down the chimney? Like his feet are here and his head is here. What is going on? And a chimney, like it's weird.
Yeah, but the ninjas, Meredith. So, yeah, I'm with you. I don't know. I'd have to read the book, but my guess is that if I understand Adam, he loves the world that was good, and there's something about England and Europe before World War I, in conjunction with German culture as well, that then makes the men who are Tolkien and others of that era who they are, and something about their way of dancing through the fairy stories without being too worried about it getting in the way of Jesus was because it didn't get in the way of Jesus.
Okay.
Right.
But let's see.
At the time,
parents of
Father,
the 40s.
Father
20s.
Christmas, you're going way further back.
Tolkien was 20s. Like these were all written 1920s.
Right. And so at this time, especially if you are England, it would be nigh impossible for you to see the seeds of your destruction that are sown in your having lost the power of the Christian crown. Okay, because the crown still was framing itself as Christian at that point, but it certainly was not operating with a vivid faith. But I guess the transition though to the Queen is right about to happen. I don't know what her father was like. I'm not trying to declare anything specific about the Queen other than that she hardly was the defender of the Christian faith in a public way through her reign. Like that is evidently not what she did. It's not loud. You'd find me some video for confessing Jesus. Show it, So, that's a major shift in the society for the life of a 2-generation age monarch. Man, put that in your 40-year curses from the Old Testament and think about it a little bit. So I on the one hand, like it's, oh, look, the seeds of your destruction. On the other hand, no, it's just a story about Christmas time that with a Christmas time, we can't imagine. We can't even imagine how peaceful it probably was. What a wonderful little retreat. And then we'll have a few funny stories, right? And it's a diversion from the winter when we have to use gas to light things because we can't see otherwise, right? Like, and I don't know. So my guess is that in that little book, you get a whole lot of father-son engagement that's really valuable. I'd almost guarantee you that's the power of that book. But I haven't looked at it because I'm not that interested in St. Nicholas. Although I should read to my kids more than I do. So maybe I should take that gift as a little bit of a spur, and we could read it after dinner a little bit and see what we make of it as a people. The thing that seems to matter more to me about Santa Claus than scraping any memory of his arising from our Christmas card collection or whatever, is more understanding the motivations behind how a government, monetary system, market, you pick company, but not just one, with its capacity only pursuing profit, to take what you believe and without your knowing, change what you believe before your eyes over a course of 40 years so that you don't even know what was and you can't imagine what was. It's so far away now. That they could do that to Father Christmas, let alone St. Nicholas. But they could even do, if you look at who Father Christmas was and who Santa Claus is, I bet you find tremendously different virtues.
Oh, probably.
And I now have a question of why. No, I know why. So Santa Claus is, people like to try the Satan Claus or whatever, which is
Satan Claus.
Oh, if you flip around the letters, like it spells Satan.
Oh my goodness,
yeah.
It's just Sinterklaas.
It's
like not even
cinder, like ash.
Saint.
It's like
Oh,
ash.
really?
It's like ash, cinder, like Cinderella, Sinterklaas. He comes down the chimney, right? And then Klaus is of the people.
So it's not from the saint?
I don't think Santa. Well, maybe Santa is, but there's also Sinterklaas as well. Sinterklaas. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, wait 5 seconds.
Yeah, see if someone says. I'm pretty sure that Sinter is like Cinderella, and it has to do with the cinders in the chimney that he comes down, right?
I see what you're saying.
Right. And so I don't know. Go ahead, internet, fix it for us. The point, my point would be again that they take your religion. Our kids leaving?
Yeah.
They take your religion and they turn it into something they sell you. And by the time they can't sell you the same thing over and over again, so they have to sell you something new. They're going to change it, And so what has occurred from once upon a time you got an orange, and we told you that Saint Nicholas, is remembered or whatever. That now we're running through a market, screaming into a machine about how our infants rule over us.
Yeah.
So, if you want to say he hates Santa Claus, go ahead. But it's really not even what I'm about. It's I don't like him, but like that, it's not because of him or something, right? It's like this other issue.
Right. Well, and my point was, it's not that we don't read fairy stories. So like fairy tales with moral lessons and I mean, so, but my point is to seeing where it's come and the result of what was the mindset and taught in the 1920s versus now the 2020s.
Yep.
Do I really want to keep that? No. And do I want to further that into this century?
Right.
Or for our tribe, for our clan of people?
Right.
Or do I want to be like, you know what? Even though I can see the fairy story in this, I'm just going to leave it over here.
It's too close to real, right? But that's where I would really, for our kids, say, okay, so Father Christmas isn't Santa Claus.
Yeah.
It's a British thing. So for 100 years old, it's very different. You could look it up on Wikipedia. You'll see some similarities, and you'll be like, oh, I see where they got Santa Claus. I see how Santa Claus is stolen, repurposed, branded. But what Father Christmas was, I think you see this in the Christmas Carol and Scrooge stuff as well. And the spirit of Christmas joy, I think he is the guy who comes with the milk of human kindness, and he's sort of a Father Christmas figure.
Okay.
He really is. He's wearing this big wreath on his head and drinking.
I mean, he does look like it in the movies and stuff, but I never read the story.
Yeah. He is the spirit of Christmas present. He's Father Christmas. Okay. And the spirit of Christmas future is death, right? Which is awesome. Or was he past? Was Father anyway? And maybe he is spirit of Christmas past. And present is where they're looking at. I don't know. It's been a while. My point is simply that there's a lot. Father Christmas is more that image than Santa Claus. And so to reject Father Christmas because Santa Claus is so bad is a little bit to maybe miss something. Not that as you decide what your traditions will be, you got to grab everything anybody gives you. But as a friend of mine gives me something good, I think I should take a look at it before I would dismiss it.
Right.
I forgot we had it. That was years ago. That one came, right?
And it's a beautiful book. That's one reason that I've kept it is I was like, this is beautiful. I want to invest the time in it. And the first year it was like too much was going on. And so I tucked it away for the next year. Right.
And you got to read it like it's Winnie the Pooh. Mm-hmm. That's why he's writing it.
Right.
And you're like, so I read Winnie the Pooh and there wasn't any Jesus in it.
Yeah.
Well, okay. It's not supposed to be for that. And yeah, you don't want to have as much Winnie the Pooh as you have Word of God in your life. You really don't. That would be gross. Right. But it's okay to read a little Winnie the Pooh and laugh at how silly we all are, actually.
Yeah.
Our question from you out there in viewer world today. Well, let's see. Can I even do it? A couple changes to the setup here, but not too many. Just got to pull the grab back. Oh, it didn't sync. No, I know what I did. I put it on the desktop. which will make it so I can't get it. Look at that. This will work though, maybe. Here, there. Took a moment. Nicola says, I have a question. I heard a Lutheran pastor in Bible study say that there will be procreation in the new earth. And he said Isaiah makes this clear. I wasn't smart enough to take smart notes, but is this a possibility? I know Jesus said that we will be like the angels and not marry. I think children and more people in heaven would be a great blessing and gift. So it does excite me to think about it. All right. So the viewer didn't really point out what verses we should expect this to be from, but it is, I think, Isaiah's text that's probably being referenced here. I'm going to find my... Okay. There we go. Isaiah text. And we just looked at this last week, in fact, at church, and I talked about it a little bit as being something of a difficult section because in the midst of this promise about all these things that are of the life of the world to come, you go back and it's verse 17, I create a new heavens and a new earth, right? So everything that is here passes away and is reborn according to the design of God through Jesus Christ, who is the firstborn. And the former things will not be remembered. It's all this good stuff that comes, right? But then you have this part where it says in verse 20, no more shall an infant from there live but a few days, or a child die 100 years old. And I talked last week about how the child of the 100th year is an interesting way to try to maybe parse out what on earth is going on there. But I mean, if the guy's going to make the case from this verse, and I don't have a verse to reference, is the best I could come up with how this guy could possibly say this is he saw this verse, which says there's children in heaven. Okay. As infants in heaven. And he said, therefore, Isaiah declares there will be marriages in heaven and procreation in heaven. The challenge is he's got to go directly against the words of Jesus in 3 of the 4 Gospels in order to do this and assert that Isaiah is right and Jesus is wrong. And whereas Isaiah is speaking in poetic form with a lot of picturesque descriptions to try to help us imagine what cannot be imagined, Jesus isn't doing that at all. Jesus is answering a very direct question from the Sadducees that's meant to trick him, and he tells them that there will be no procreation in heaven. No marriage in heaven.
What chapter in Isaiah is this?
So Isaiah, we were looking at chapter 65, verses 17 through 19 probably. Or excuse me, it's verse 20, but 17 through 20. Mm-hmm. But now moving to the gospel readings, and they're all different and they're all the same. I want to read Jesus' answer from all of them because I want to highlight the distinctions there. Again, this is in response to this kind of trick question about a guy who dies and doesn't die. 6 or 7 guys die. They all marry the same woman who gets to be with her forever. Right. And in Mark, I think I like Mark's answer because of the way he opens up. He says, are you not therefore mistaken because you do not know the scriptures nor the power of God? So here you are in front of like the whole world, the biggest day of the year, and everyone's talking and they get their chance to ask you a question. And your answer is, oh, aren't you an idiot because you don't read the Bible? That's what he says to them. I mean, for when they rise from the dead. Now, where is he? When they rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like the angels in heaven. And now he's going to change the topic. But concerning the dead, that they rise, right? Because he knows this whole thing is about the resurrection, and it's a debate between the Sadducees and the Pharisees. Yes, they rise, obviously, and he points to a verse that nobody else would have thought to point to. But I'm going to stick with he says, are you not therefore mistaken because you do not know the scriptures nor the power of God? For when they rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like the angels in heaven. Okay, so that's Mark. Now, here we go with Matthew. Matthew says, double check and make sure it's on the screen. You are mistaken, not knowing the scriptures nor the power of God. For in the resurrection, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like the angels of God in heaven. But concerning the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what was spoken to you by God? Now, again, that's that part about the resurrection, about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And then I wanted to get to the Luke. Let's see if is it missing?
So that's Matthew 22 and Mark 12.
And
Luke.
There should be a Luke text, but I'm not seeing it. There it is. And I got to get back to... Hallelujah. Let's see. Nope. There it is. Nope. This button. Come on. Just... New things, new ways, and I just lost it all. Where'd it go? That's not it. 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 Oh my goodness. Hallelujah to all of it. Mark is gone. There's Luke. Is he on the screen? Luke's on the screen. Nope. Yep, there it is. Sorry, everybody. Thank you for being here. The sons of this age, Jesus says in Luke 20:34, the sons of this age marry and are given in marriage. But those who are counted worthy to attain that age and the resurrection from the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage, nor can they die anymore, for they are equal to the angels and are sons of God, being sons of the resurrection. Even Moses showed the burning bush passage, they rise from the dead. So the Isaiah 66 passage, if that means that we have babies in heaven, it means we also have death in heaven, because both parts talk about death. Here Jesus says we don't have babies in heaven that are newborns, and we don't have death. So the pastor's wrong or confused. And while I can understand how this passage about not being married or given in marriage in heaven can disturb people who are rightly in love with their spouses, but perhaps wrongly misunderstanding what that's actually about for the rest of forever, would prioritize this veil of tears over what's coming. And that's just a matter of, not having heard enough about what's coming, I think. I confess that I've not really ever liked this passage. I've struggled with trying to understand this passage. Not so much just because I have to have Meridith, but a little bit more in terms of if the new creation is a restoration of the fall, then why is sex not being redeemed, right? Well, Jesus is the firstborn new man, you see. And he's going to let some of us still stay men. We're not going to marry him. That would be wrong. And our wives, we're our wives. They're not going to marry him either. Not that way. But we're all going to be unified with him in a new life that's made to be the way it's supposed to be. And so whatever we lose in that, like for guys, small moment of your life every day, every week, every month, when you get to have coitus with your wife and there's a little bit of pleasure there. Okay. Like, it's not that that's so much going away. It's just everything's going to feel like good all the time. Having a conversation feel like good with everybody. Like it won't be, you don't need it. Do we need to make more people? Well, he seems to think, no, he seems like he made us. What comes next? I don't know. No, the Mormons are like, we be gods, we make our own. I don't know. That's the Mormons. Okay. Don't go there, right? They can be a city. We're going to live there and work there. It's going to be good. You're going to love everybody you see. You're not going to not know who your wife was. No. So you can hang out, and I'm sure there will be some connection that is unique to you. Has to be, because you're not going to forget each other. But the need to comfort each other in the veil of tears with the salve of what God made also available as procreation, that will pass away. And so if he has a new design for something else, who are we to argue with that? Why? What are you trying to hold on to? And the question that you asked was, well, it seems like having more babies in heaven would be a good idea. Well, if God doesn't say so, then it isn't. I mean, I know that's kind of radical, but this is back to that first principle stuff. Like, I'm not so much in the realm of I'm going to justify what God's thought is to you based on your questions about why you don't think God is reasonable. I'm going to align my thought with God's thought because God's thought's more reasonable than anything I thought. Period. If what I thought was reasonable and it's against God, it's not reasonable. It's destructive. And so here's a great test for all of us. Like, we don't even get to know what it means. Nobody gets to know what this means. No one has an answer to what it means. It's strictly, Jesus is like, well, me or Moses? Me or Isaiah? Am I capable? Can I do something you don't understand and you will still follow me? Or do you have to have some sort of like control, right? It's a nice test for that. And that's exactly what it was for the Sadducees, very much. So I think that's the best answer I can give.
I found the portion before, so in Isaiah 65, verse 17, I found that to be very comforting. It says, "For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered or come to mind." And so in all these things, the whole what ifs or am I going to, it's like, you know what?
The what ifs.
It'll be new.
And that's the name of this show, by the way. If you're wondering about the what ifs, if is a bad word or something like that. The what ifs, they really get you in trouble when they are asked against the clear text of Scripture. So it's fine to speculate. But then when the text says no, then you just got to stop. You can't be, but what about or what if? You just got to let it go. If is a doubt word. If is a maybe word. And Christians don't peddle doubt. We peddle certainty. Our words are amen and mercy. There's no doubt there. I let it slip away.
Yeah, I was just talking about how comforting it is to have the former shall not be remembered or come to mind.
I was going to say how, again, so who do you believe, Isaiah or St. John, who says the smoke of her fire goes up forever and ever, and we all shout hallelujah when we see the fire. So I suggest to you that when you get into that realm of but what about, and you start pitting them against each other, you've adopted a modern mindset which is based on a flawed view of human logic that gives far too much credit to our ability to imagine answers. And so if we don't see an answer immediately, we assume it doesn't make sense rather than assume that the world is more complex than we are and that there are phenomenal, infinite answers that we can't even imagine that could have happened. And one of them did, because obviously we're here with the results, right? This is a Spockism, if you want it from Star Trek, Once you remove all of the actual probabilities, whatever remains, however unlikely, is true. So here's Christianity with that truth remaining unlikely as it continues to do. And really capable, again, of piercing the cloud. Of giving you words that endure and all this.
And if we keep going to catch us up in Isaiah 65 to the portion that you quoted, which is verse 20, but if we keep going at 18, it says, "But be glad and rejoice forever in what I create.
Right.
For behold, I create Jerusalem as rejoicing."
Right. So what's the point Isaiah wants you to
joy.
get? What's the point John wants you to get in Revelation in both cases? That in the resurrected world, it's going to be better than we can imagine, and God will be obviously for us all the time. And we get to look forward to that now, and that's glory now. To look forward to it now, to suffer now. And then, so the smoke of the fire, we will not remember the former times. But there might be something like, man, it's always been so good to eat pizza. Always. It's always been good. Right. So
in 19 he says, "I will rejoice in Jerusalem and joy in my people. The voice of weeping shall no longer be heard in her, nor the voice of crying."
God help us. Amen. It's beautiful. If you cannot understand the dream of Christianity, then you got no soul yourself. To say, I don't believe Jesus did it, I don't believe it's enough, but you think Christianity is stupid, you don't know what we're talking about then. You haven't listened. You haven't heard. You can't even imagine what we're looking forward to. So you think it's bad. It's so beautiful what we hope in. So that's that question. We had some other stuff come through the YouTube channel, especially. We got quite a number of positive comments last week. Long-term listener, first-time writer kind of stuff. And not going to read all of it out loud, but thank you, those of you who wrote those things. This is a time in my life when I'm able to hear praise a little bit, so it's nice when I do. One of them was a very strong comment about the rainbow and how ever since the Build the Ark series this summer, her and her husband have taken to having rainbows that show up in their life be real signs from God. And just meaning that he loves the earth, right? You're not trying to play lotto tickets or something with the number or any of that. But being blessed by that experience, you realize, oh, look, he's still actually doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's still doing it. There was a comment and a thing in the Sons of Solomon channel on the Dr. Star Universe Discord where it kind of had to do with mental fortitude and growing up in prosperity gospel, particularly the kind of the Joyce Meyer flavor. And one of the things that is appealing about Joyce Meyer, what she promises is that she'll give you mental fortitude. And I would guess she actually does give mental fortitude to her disciples, right? This is why she's successful. So she's wrong about what a Christian preacher should be. I haven't looked into her Christology. I know that when I read one of her books, a fifth of it or so, as soon as she started talking anything that wasn't Proverbs and God and his word being true, which was a whole chapter of that. It was really quite good. And right after that, it was time to put the book down. I just didn't want it anymore. But what I saw there very clearly again is that she is a sharp mind, and she gives people mental fortitude. She is a teacher of mental fortitude. She's wrapped it up as the gospel, for better, for ill. Christ is preached, right? So I know it's not up to me who punishes her. But what I would say is the challenge I think anyone coming out of prosperity gospel will have is that the prosperity gospel is founded on lots of Bible verses that are true about you. They're just not true the way that you were told they were true. But the tendency is going to be to throw out all the truth to try to be safe from the lie. And you don't want to do that. You want to believe that God intends to prosper you and not to harm you. That might mean crucifying you, and that's what glory is, right? Like that's a big jump there. I just did a lot right there, right? So, but Joyce Meyer's not going to teach you that, but don't throw out mental fortitude, right? And I think that's what the debate was about a little bit. And I'd even suggest if are you a ninja? Are you a son of Solomon? Do you actually do the discipline? Have you begun studying anything deeper? You can read a Joyce Meyer book, take some notes, and like decide what the structure of it was and discern what framework built on nature she holds to, discover it in the scriptures, and believe on it. You can do that. You have to ignore all the rest of it. That's the danger, right? How good are you? Do you have your own principles, or are you really still needing some, right? And so that's something to do with age too, by the way. I don't know that no one's ever told me this, but I'm in my mid-40s, and I'm going to suggest to you that in your mid-40s, you'll really develop your purpose and principles in life. And any attempt to develop a purpose and principles in life before that's kind of stupid, really. Inherit instead. Take what you've been given that's good, go, right? And then in your 40s, you're going to have to like ask why. Do it then. Because you're going to do it then anyway. So you can spend all the time from now until your 40s in a midlife crisis, or you can wait. Yeah, for what that's worth. And finally, I had a fun thought. I'm not going to write this fiction piece, I don't think, but you could. I could. It'd be kind of fun. And it's this, like, you remember Left Behind, right? Mm-hmm. So the whole concept of the rapture and Christians get taken away and non-Christians are left, but the Bibles are still around. And the atheist who's getting paid to take care of your cat actually goes and takes care of your cat after you're raptured, and then he finds your Bible and your note you left for him, and he becomes a Christian or whatever, and yay for us and all this. But I don't believe in the rapture that way, because the Bible doesn't teach it clearly that way. And ask, madpxm.com/contact. I'll answer.
Okay, so you have a thought on a fiction novel
story
or something.
So, and the rapture. So what if the rapture is completely true? So I don't believe in the rapture. Okay, we're starting with that, and I'm talking about a fiction story. Okay, so we're suspending belief. You do it all the time you watch TV. You can do it for my story. What if the rapture is true, but not true in any way anybody ever thought? So everyone who's teached and preached on the rapture was wrong about how the rapture works, but they were right about all that was going on in the world and the fact that it's about to happen, and we got to get ready, and it's going to be any day now. And what if it was in fact 2020? Only like nobody was good enough to get raptured.
Ouch.
I know, huh? We're 3 years in. Put that in some fun times. Go play video games. Woo-hoo! That's more than a video game, isn't it now? And I'm not sure it's true. But then again, it is the end days. And so why not? But I'll leave it as my Orson Welles War of the Worlds moment there. You're welcome for me not doing it as an actual teaching. Orson Welles just got on the radio and broadcast we're being invaded, right? I mean, this was, you know about this War of the Worlds?
No, I don't.
I mean, talk about media ecology.
What rock did I live under? But
you're young. I forget how young you are. You grew up before radio.
And then on top of that, Jonathan, honestly, we weren't wealthy enough to have television.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I don't know if Orson Welles, I learned about it from television. It definitely was in a movie called Explorers, which I did think on recently, and is a fascinating emblem of my era's childhood, including having like Ethan Hawke in it as a kid and a couple famous guys. Anyway, it's about these kids who go into space and meet an alien who knows everything he knows from TV. What were we talking about before that?
The rock that I lived under.
Oh, Orson Welles. So when radio is becoming kind of a new thing but popular, but TV does not yet exist, if I understand it correctly, there's this guy named Orson Welles who had a show that he had to do with some regularity.
Picked up on that.
And at some point, he just, for the opening of the show, reads a fiction piece that's a science fiction piece written from the perspective of a radio announcer reading the bulletin of an invasion. And people freaked out.
I'm sure they did.
And it all blew over and haha, he's famous in sci-fi. Now we have sci-fi. So like, War of the Worlds, Orson Welles.
So this is all compiled in a book now that you can read.
I don't know if War of the Worlds is a book you can read. I know it got made into a movie. The script, it's not long enough to be a book, I don't think.
Okay.
It might be a small, like a vignette kind of thing. But so that all came up.
Well, we are thanking you that you didn't just create this.
Do that as a story, right? So I don't think you should really run out there and think, oh, the rapture actually happened and we're all. I think if you believe in the rapture, you should think that. I think you should think about how you weren't righteous enough and maybe no one was righteous enough and we all got a wake-up call and now it's time to come back to the Bible, which you're all doing. So go look for some rapture in your Bible that's actually in your Bible. Because, well, yeah. If we're not in the third year of the tribulation, then we're just in one more year of the standard last times, which means the rise and fall of nations, and means you got to pay attention to the news for that reason, not to see when Jesus comes back, but to see if your nation's like good or evil. And wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. So, yeah. We got an hour. Got another hour. That's all the news that I got. I could point you to RevFisk.com, RevFisk.com. If you would subscribe, then that would make me happy. You'll get stuff from me. If you would subscribe and pay for it, then that would be the way to support us if you want to support us here at Stop the White Noise. But you can also do that at subscribestar.com/RevFisk. That's Rev as in Reverend and Fisk. And thank you to those of you who do. And also those of you at Patreon. But if you're moving over to Subscribestar or to Substack, I don't blame you for leaving Patreon. I get that too. And trying to figure out where to go. We did have a YouTube video taken down this week, but it wasn't a strike. Didn't raise us to 2 strikes. We have 1 strike of 3, right?
What did we talk about?
Medical misinformation from like sometime, a long time ago.
A long time ago.
In a conversation with Brian. I mean, Wolfmueller's on this one. So like, I don't know.
Well, that wasn't me then.
No,
because I
probably not.
Never interview him.
Yeah. So in any case, they took it down. But
I mean, that wasn't Stop the White Noise.
Yeah, probably
Sorry,
not.
that was really incorrect. Well, that wasn't me then.
Well, you know what though? I feel like it did say Stop the White Noise. Maybe it didn't though.
Oh.
No, it was a Wii TV. It was a Wii TV.
Oh, okay.
It was for sure. Yeah.
Well, congratulations. So exciting.
I am not a medical doctor and try not to give medical advice, but I do believe it's important for you to do your own research. I am a counselor, and I counsel you to do your own reading. Get second opinions.
Yeah.
That's one I've had to say to a member more than once. You know, a second opinion is okay. You can do it. But I feel bad about it. Like they're not trusting their doctor, and that's bad. Medical misinformation. Hallelujah. I have a dream of getting us to Rumble at some point. And we are there. A lot of clips are making it there, but the dream is by this time next year. I think I want to get there. When I saw the email from them, I wasn't sure if it was a strike or if it was going to be a warning. If it was a strike, that was going to amplify our ejection to Rumble.
Yeah.
But we have more time.
So I had a conversation. I was given the opportunity to speak with some jewelry designers.
Yeah.
And my quest to understand Proverbs 31 more deeply has led me to contemplate like, why rubies? Maybe I don't understand rubies well enough. And so to be honest, I was in this scenario where I had jewelry designers around me and I was like, okay, talk to me about rubies.
Ruby, right. Well, and right away.
And
I mean, the thing that got me was they're hard.
Yes.
So they're the diamond before there was a diamond.
Exactly. So diamonds actually are more common than rubies. So therefore, in Proverbs 31, he talks about it's like more rare, more precious. And they are less common. And then the strength, exactly.
Not as strong as a diamond, but stronger than any other gem.
Really? I thought he said it was stronger.
No. It was about 80% of
Okay.
the strength of a diamond.
Oh, okay.
Which was a lot compared to other stuff. I don't remember the other ones, but the other ones were lower.
Lower, yeah.
So it's, and diamonds, I mean, I don't think the word diamond even shows up in the Bible, does it?
I've never seen it. Unless
because they don't
hidden.
really exist. They're more of a modern phenomenon of a gemstone that is prolific. That is, we can get enough to sell everybody one, because you can't sell everybody a ruby, I don't think. So we can get enough to sell everybody one, and then they are hard enough, right? They're strong enough to stand up to wear and tear on non-elite people's hands.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. So that was an interesting thing. Like, why do we have diamonds in engagement rings? And it's because it is able to just be an everyday, like it's going to be strong enough to withstand work. And so the ruby, he was saying, is it's if you want something more precious, the ruby is going to be strong like a diamond, but it is extremely rare. And the interesting thing that I found was a design that I was shown of a ring. No, it wasn't him, but it was somebody else. Anyway, a design, because I was saying, because of Proverbs 31, I would think that having a ruby in your engagement ring would be more, from a Christian perspective, more sought out. Like, that's what I want. Wife, you are my ruby, and I'm going to give you a ruby. Well, be prepared to give her a tiny ruby or a tiny ruby with diamonds, lots of them, because that was incredible to me. The one setting had
there was the one big one. There was one big one
of diamonds
all over it, yeah,
and a smaller ruby. And I thought for sure this is going to be more expensive than the solitaire ruby. No.
Yeah.
It was a less expensive design. And the solitaire ruby, because the ruby was bigger, not because it had fewer diamonds. It was more valuable. So that was a little fun that I had in the recent past, just getting a little bit more as I study Proverbs 31 and kind of gathering information from here or there and trying to compile it into my brain. So
yeah. Well, that's interesting. On more levels, because that was a social event we got invited to that we, kind of walked in, maybe not quite belonging there. But
I didn't feel like I fit in at all.
But we made a little investment in our precious metals. What do you call that? Diversification. Very small investment in precious metals, and that's why we went. We got a deal when we did it, and
it was really fun to talk to the artists.
Yeah,
I
wasn't expecting that part, to realize the one guy who was like, I am the designer. I'm like, you don't work here. Like, no, he came to this place where his stuff is set out And then it's kind of like you go to the cigar shop and they got the guy repping the cigar place, only it's the guy who wraps them is, the pro.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen usually at cigar shop every once in a while. So it was like that. And it was like, my first question was, how'd you learn this? From my father, he said. Second guy that night, how'd you learn this? My father, he said. No one to teach now, they both said. No one wants to learn it, they said.
Yeah.
We said, we got kids.
Yeah.
And we can leave that for another time. But that's Proverbs 31 there too, I think, actually. That networking that occurred through your curiosity, through your desire to talk about why you were curious in rubies, and my crucifix was part of the conversation too, and all that. So good time.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting, so rubies are strong, but then if we think about rubies in the framework of Proverbs 31, what do we see is continually coming up is her strength. Mm-hmm. So she has strength in her arms. She has strength in her her wisdom and strength are her clothing. And so to then compare her to one of the strongest gems of the time, I mean, honestly, I don't even know. I don't know where diamonds fit in. And if a diamond is just something that we've created.
Well, we found them. They're in Africa.
Okay. And then there's like, there are all those different stones that are listed in Revelation and in Daniel is it Daniel? Yeah. And then maybe Ezekiel.
Is diamond in there?
No.
Yeah,
And that's the thing. Like, what are these things? Onyx is talked about. I don't know what onyx is. I need to look it up.
The first recorded diamond ring given in 1477, Archduke Maximilian of Austria to Mary of Burgundy. India was the primary source of diamonds till the 18th century when they were discovered in Brazil, and then 19th century South Africa. The De Beers Company played a crucial role in shaping the diamond industry, controlling the majority of the world's diamond production for much of the 20th century. So Rockefellers, anybody? In the mid-20th century, the Diamonds Are Forever marketing campaign contributed to the enduring association of diamonds with love and commitment. Thank you, ChatGPT. So, 1477. Yeah, Solomon didn't have a diamond as a diamond and wouldn't have thought of it as a diamond. He may have known about the hardest substance on earth, maybe. But, in trade, gems, and ruby was then the gem of gems, right? Carnelian, sapphire, these show up as pretty important. Emerald, Revelation's all about that. And then the
sapphire, like we learned, sapphire can be many different colors.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Why is it a sapphire then? What makes it a sapphire?
I thought some sapphires were rubies. I think, so these rubies? And he's like, well, those are sapphires. I was like, oh, yeah.
That's a good name for a hamster. Sapphire. That's of course, Saphira already got taken by Mr. Dragon Book.
Oh.
Yeah, but sapphire. That's a beautiful name. Yeah.
So that was an interesting.
Hi, Fred from Hollywood. God bless you for Washington, California, living there. Sorry, I saw Hollywood. Oof. What a place. What a place. Yeah. So again, the interaction of us as a couple in that social event it was also one of those things where, again, in our little egalitarian LCMS circles, so different the way that we operate as people in a closed space. Mm-hmm. So, we're at a jewelry show that we're invited to, right? Because I'm going to put some money into some silver or gold. That's why we're there. And who's there?
A lot of old ladies.
A lot of old ladies. A lot of drunk men.
Oh, really?
Most guys I saw had a drink and were very vocal. So, I walk by and they're doing this with their drink. Okay, so having a good time.
I was so focused.
Having a good time. They're there to spend money. Everyone is there. This is why we don't belong there. They're really all there to spend thousands of dollars. Tens of thousands of dollars, probably. At 20% off. It's a good reason to be there. If you're going to spend $20,000 on some necklaces, right? Well, save $2,000. Or $4,000, 20%. So that's what this party is. It's like an auction for high-end stuff, right? And so my nose through the night is sort of like, okay, I'm here because I actually am going to try to get a deal on some precious metal because I believe in diversifying your resources if you have them to do so. And I'm going to do so with my wife and enjoy it, and eat a couple things from the Green Fire local place, meatballs, and I had a piece of chocolate cake.
Did you like it?
It was good.
It's called ganache, and I'm learning that that's an actual brownie thing. Like
it was a mix of like berry
brownie.
It was berry brownie and some sort of other chocolate, and it did not taste like a store-bought berry mix of any kind. It tasted like there were fresh berries mixed into a chocolate cake, and it was a little tiny bite-sized thing. It was very good. That's why I had a second one. I don't know, probably 35 calories, right?
Favorite. Jumbo shrimp wrapped in bacon.
Those are pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not have one, but you did, and you enjoyed that quite a bit.
There's one other thing I had, but
a little cream thing on a spoon.
Oh, it was a creme brulee on a spoon.
Oh, it was very fabulous.
That was okay.
Like, just the presentation was so clever.
It was cool. Green Fire is a cool place.
Yeah.
Expensive. Expensive. Everything there was expensive. We didn't belong there at all, right? My son buys a silver chain, and we're in the door, right? And so it wasn't quite just that, but it's sort of like that. That's how we got in. And so what I noticed most, though, was sort of like, so here we are, this young couple moving about this crowd, and I started to kind of look at, what are the women doing? What are the men doing? How are we being engaged? Who's approached? When you're approached, how do they treat me? Right. And all of that, Proverbs 31, like, you're at the marketplace, and I was watching you at the marketplace, and these professional salesmen wanted to please you. They wanted to please you.
Oh, well, they knew that I was the one that would
Absolutely.
get you to open your pocketbook.
They wanted to please you. They wanted me to spend money. But it was more than that. I mean, after I'm buying it, he's taking an extra 5% off. After it's all done, it's already ordered. He said, take 5% off again. Okay. Proverbs 31 woman is recognizing the gaze because of how she treats people. How you gave respect to them, asking about their profession with actual interest. As a beautiful woman in the arm of a young man in a place full of people who are just trying to get theirs. It stood out.
It was fabulous.
It stood out.
So we were then invited into the store designer. So we had several designers from out of town come in to show off their wares. But then
it was in a store, and the owner of the store, who is a self-made designer taught by his dad, opened the store, moved here from, let's say, Brazil? What's it?
He's from Chile.
Chile, that's it.
And he first was employed out in New York with Tiffany Company. Decided he didn't want to work. So Tiffany is actually owned by Avon, and he was like, this is disgusting. I don't want to get checks from Avon. So he's
principles. It's a man of principles right there.
Right.
What's his principle? I don't know, but it was clear. Like, there are things I will not do. Yeah. And that was one of them.
So then he comes here, and I don't know if it was a direct move or like what exactly brought him here. I felt like he had taken over. There was some connection, some person that then he might not have opened Xavius as his name and the name he chose for his shop.
Right.
But anyway, now he's the owner and the designer of this shop, and he's a professional artist. That was what he
is capable of doing art that is far more valuable or complicated, time consuming. He's capable of doing fantastic pieces of beauty that take more time than jewelry, say carving an antler into an eagle, that kind of thing, which he showed us. But he got to make a living.
Yeah, he's like, I can mold or I can carve anything out of anything.
Yeah.
And that was really fabulous.
And we're like,
and then we get to go
kids?
back into his office and see his carvings. He's showing off his stuff. It's amazing.
That's great.
And then I have a little crucifix that I received as a baptism gift when I was 6 months old. And I had been told by jewelers, there's nothing you can do. So it's like plated, gold plated.
It's like a 14 karat or lower gold plate. Yeah.
And it's just been worn off over the course of time. I think it would have worn off even if I hadn't worn it, So I pulled it out and I was like, I have this crucifix. Is there anything that you can do to put something over it so it preserves it? Like, can you spray paint it with gold or a precious metal of some kind? And he's like, well, absolutely, we can do that. Like to be able to talk to the man that's going to do the work.
Yeah.
And then he's like, and you can come and you can watch me do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I can watch you through these windows right here. And he's like, you can come into the shop and watch me do it.
So we got a field trip lined up here. We got a field trip lined up. It's great. So I think that's all kinds of Proverbs 31. You know, I don't think I get there in that conversation. I don't think that happens. So thank you.
Thank you. I love going to things like that. It was kind of like taking Alaska. You know how we got to go into all these artist shops and I got to talk to them about what they do. It was so fun.
Oh, I didn't think about it that way.
And it was just like that here in Rockford. So I had a great time.
Oh, good. Yay.
Yeah, the one guy, the first designer that we spoke to, I could tell there wasn't as much passion. His design was, I don't know.
I it didn't jump out to me. But then when the other guy took us over there to talk about rubies and he pulled out the one, he was like, this one isn't this. And he, oh, wait a minute. No, this one is. And he started going, oh, this is really nicely done. Like, so
that's true.
You know, it's about what you're looking for.
Yeah.
He's definitely trying to make a sale. He's trying to sell his art. He flew here probably, right, to sell this stuff. And so as soon as you're not interested, he's going to move on and talk to other people. And we weren't really particularly interested in his stuff.
Gems.
No, yeah, right. Because gems are not going to hold their value in a portfolio generally.
Yeah, you can't break off a piece of it and be like,
you can try to pawn your ruby, your $6,000, $5,000 ruby if you want.
It's a lot of sardines.
It's a lot of pawning, you know. And I'll share. So if you don't listen to A Brief History of Power with myself and Dr. Coons, and you've never heard the episode way back on Argentina and the collapse of Argentina and how to be aware of failing economic society and the kind of things that are going to happen in the years which follow and the restoration which you hope for, Argentina just elected Donald Trump, South America style. But this is like 20 years. 20 years. So you imagine the Biden regime.
Okay.
Runs the country for 20 more years. The money collapses, violence in the streets, off the walls, fires everywhere, nothing's working, right? And they're still in charge. And they're still telling their story, and they still act like they think everything's fine. And that's been some of Argentina. There's been in and outs, but no one. It's always been the same liberal agenda, and now it's flung back all the other way to like quite a figure, quite a character has come into power down there.
Okay.
And that was a tangent into Malay from.
So what we do to prepare for this when you smell this coming?
Right, and Argentina,
you
the Argentina
German
book
Shepherd.
In general. Well, it talked about a dog.
Yeah.
And I didn't listen well enough because the book's very clear. It doesn't matter what size dog, because the primary deterrent is that it's a dog. So if there's a thief or a group of thieves who are going to come and take out your neighborhood or take out houses in your neighborhood, they're going to take out all the houses without dogs. Why? Because even a small dog wakes people up, and even a small dog biting you gets infected. And why? Mm-hmm. There's a no dog next door. So buy a dog. That's one of the pieces of advice. But I'm, going to monetary advice. Mm-hmm. Aguirre is the name of the guy. Again, this is not my original knowledge. He said, first off, cash is king. Because what will happen is cash will go away, but people will only take cash. Mm-hmm. Credit won't work. No one's going to, your little shop next door isn't going to take credit because they know they're never going to get it. Mm-hmm. Right? And so only cash will work. That won't last forever, but having some cash supply on hand, some way to get some cash will be important for you to get groceries for the first couple of days after a financial collapse, or everyone's trying to go to the bank to get cash. You have some. And then that's number one. Number two then is after cash ceases to be the only thing that there is, the whole society will transition to something more reliable than the cash, because the cash will continue to lose money. It will continue to be less valuable than it was. Because the inflation will continue to spike. There is no saving the paper. Mm-hmm. And so everybody will start looking for something else to trade that's more valuable than paper, and they will naturally go to precious metals. And so indeed, silver and gold coin, sure. But what Aguirre says is, when you're trying to buy apples, your $100, $180, golden penny,
It's a lot of apples.
It's a lot of apples. You're not going to have change, right? So what he says is jewelry is the way to go. Solid gold, solid silver jewelry. And you can break off links. You can pawn it. You will not have your value back today. You will pay a premium price. You can go to a pawn store, maybe get better. But so I'm taking that advice and gradually applying it to a small part of my portfolio, which God has blessed us with as we, prepare and receive and try to steward what we have. My goal is to get my kids, safely grown and not lose the home while we do that. So, but in the meantime, I'm realizing that the paper that is sitting in an account somewhere, is not worth what, say, a solid piece of gold or silver would be. And so, again, how do you consider the way you would diversify your own preparation for whatever you think is coming? So for me, it involves precious metals. It involves cash. It involves actual real digital, including crypto. It involves food. So sardines and water, other things like that. And it involves, I had one other one in the portfolio, but, the ability to defend yourself in some way, to help defend the neighborhood if possible. Right? And those things retain their value, really. Cigarettes, by the way, you want to stockpile your basement full of cigarettes, you'll be able to trade. But, I don't know, that's probably a bit forward thinking. How good are they? What we're trying to do is to take what we have that's in things that aren't of value, paper money, and put them into things that can be of value to everyone at any given time so that it's not stolen from us and we have it to use and share when the time comes. And that's why you would want to, diversify your portfolio rather than say, just go after investment profits, which is what most people are going to do with their income, their money. They're going to try to turn it into money that makes money, which is how the whole system's built. It's usurious. And I'm not saying that as a Christian, you can't live in the usurious system and get away with it. I am saying that usurious systems tend to self-collapse. So when do you get out of the market? That's always the question. Even the big guys are always saying, got to know when to sell.
Yeah.
So, but the thing about gold and silver is you don't buy it to sell it. You buy it so that if you have to sell it, you can sell it. That's what it is. It's there to be used. It's not there to be hoarded. And, but that's all the gifts too. And what I talked about earlier with generosity and trying to share, that's like the other edge to this. So on the one hand, I look at, what was portfolio investments into financial profiteering in the American system. Mm-hmm. And I decided 2020, I know what they're profiteering on, and I'm not going to be part of that if I can help it much as possible. Got out everything I could get out. That's just me. No one has to do that. But I said, I'm going to put this money into things that then are real. Right? Instead of just hoping this money is there so I can cash a check 30 years from now, I will stop worrying about the checks I have to cash now for the things that are needed now. And that doesn't just mean what I need. It means what do people need? What do you need? I mean, I'm not asking the internet to, ask me. I don't have that much, really. Really. I'm a pastor, honestly, right? I worked hard and I saved, which most people don't do. And now we have enough that right now with a house full of kids, we're putting braces on everybody and it's going to be okay, I think. Jesus, So don't think too highly of us here as you send us your money. But I do encourage you that if you have money, keep some in cash. Don't keep all of it in cash. Understand the value of real things. What good does it do sitting in that account if you're not here? I heard another story. I've heard this story too many times. So I guess on one hand, you hear it once, you're like, oh, I'm going to learn my lesson. And you assume everyone else will. But the story goes like this. They just retired. Built the house they've always wanted. He's dead. Less than a year.
Oh.
He was only in his 50s. Died suddenly, I don't know. But I've heard that story before. All that planning, all that work, all that time, all that dream, and then what are you going to do with this house with just you?
Oh, that's so painful.
Oh, you better believe it is. Right? So, but that's kind of what I'm at here a little bit. It's here to be used today. You live for the future, you live for questions. That's what you live for. Live for today. And so, why do we go put cash into gold? Because cash in a digital bank account is a promissory note about the future that you can research how they are stealing it by pennies from you in the system. So you put it there and it drains. It drains its value. You get all of it back. It's still a solid bill, kind of, but it's not what it was. And so once you know that that's the game they're playing and they're doing it with land. So land's the only thing that's like guaranteed to always go up eventually. That's the casino concept from Brief History of Power. Once you know that game, you can just be a little more wise to what they're doing. And it's not that it's going to make you rich, but maybe you don't have to get stolen from all the time. And that's kind of where we've benefited, I think, and where I see it benefiting us in our decisions. So.
A woman came to me recently and she said, I thought of you this week. I said, oh boy.
What I do now?
Oh, what I say. And she goes, you know that time that you saved that piece of bubble gum in college? I was like, oh yeah. And she goes, and how when you went to go and enjoy it, it wasn't enjoyable anymore. I found in my Bible from college graduation or high school graduation a $10 bill that I was given. Like it wasn't her current Bible, but it was an old one.
Yeah.
And she's like, I would that I had spent it then. I would have gotten much more.
Yes, right.
Because this woman now is retired.
Yeah.
Yeah,
$10. $10 was a lot of money at one point.
$10?
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's a lot of money.
That would have been like a $50 bill
You know,
today.
like when we were like in our 20s, do you remember this? I like prayed to be a millionaire because I started believing in prayer. I started believing, oh, he's listening and he'll answer. It's like, well, why not? Can I have $1 million? And I was like, but I should probably ask for some stuff here. And I asked for things. I was like, I had a friend who I knew his living situation was, I mean, they lived in a horsehair cottage. Okay. Gee, can I have $1 million? I'm going to buy him a house. Straight up, just buy it. Give it.
And Christ was like, I'll buy him the house.
He did.
You don't have, yeah.
He did. In fact,
beautiful house.
Yeah. Twice.
Big enough
actually,
for all of his
because then they
children.
moved and they got another really nice.
Yes.
So it all worked out. But so I bring this up to be like, so when I said I'd like to be a millionaire, I didn't mean inflate the money. So I'm a millionaire in my mid 40s and it's like just being poor. That's not what I meant. But it kind of feels like it's going to go that way.
Yeah.
Because I know what I make and it's not enough. And that's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not enough to live like the television's telling us that we're supposed to.
We got 7. We're doing okay. He provides.
We have a roof. We have one.
If I were to tell a pastor in the 80s that I make what I make just on my salary, and I were to say, I have to have a second job.
Yeah.
He'd go, no way, you're wasteful.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. We buy a lot of small things. But then again. Right? So we are in a space right now where we have to understand the value of the dollar is on utter free fall. We spent at least a year, maybe 2, just printing dollars into our system without actually producing anything. And that's, I forget what the spectrum of that fallout is, but it wasn't like the next day we all feel it. It's like years to pull this thing out,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
Just like also the levels of transportation backups and things still aren't cleared out. We still have things on order. We still have things not coming as they should. Parts of society are opening up again. Other parts are not. And on that level, I don't know. Somehow I'm the only one getting news in my feed about, China. But we're finally getting back up to speed just now.
It feels like it. This season, Thanksgiving and now the beginning of Advent season is the busiest. No, it wasn't just Thanksgiving. It was like it started on Reformation or All Hallows Eve. You know, that just everybody left town and went away and had plans.
Yeah.
It was like, wait, when did this happen? So it's kind of like everything's just going back to what it had been.
Yeah, we're going to try.
I mean, I don't remember. Do you remember all the different things in 2020 on our calendar that we canceled?
No.
Cancel. I mean, there were, I looked at my calendar in January and was like, wow, this is going to be a fun year. We've got a lot going on. A lot of big events here, there, and everywhere. and done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't go to any of them, actually. So.
I know Higher Things would have been one. I mean, Good Friday.
Yep, there was Higher Things. We had 2 weddings that were further away than just here.
Then we didn't go for
and
that.
then there was a wedding that was here, ended up being here. And actually 2 weddings here we had.
Yeah.
And then there were a few new babies or, other things that would have brought us, we would have traveled to go and enjoy.
Right.
Family things like that.
Yeah.
And you had a few speaking engagements that were canceled.
Definitely a lot of those. I was going to go to, golly, I was going far.
Yeah, you were. I can't remember.
Was it like Ukraine?
Overseas.
I feel like it might have even been Ukraine.
Ukraine was more recent. That was like 2022 or 21.
And it was like that. Yeah. It was the end of that 2020
And you were
year.
like, I can't.
I said, yeah.
I can't do that.
Yeah. It was Ukraine though, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That would have been something. It's been a year before. I've been there a year before. That would have been something. Oh well. Jesus has a plan. Why are we dripping water from my water bottle? It's weird. Yeah, from there. It's speeding up again.
It is. So, right. I think it's just kind of returning to what we had taken for granted.
Well, that's
as
just
being
it.
just life.
But you and I have
we're
made
like,
decisions to
whoa.
not speed up with it, and now we're watching it go, and it's like pulling on you a little bit, right? And we're having to set some boundaries for ourselves.
Well, and even just recently making decisions because of the weather.
Right.
Like, you know what? It's possibly going to be icy.
This gets back to first
slushy.
principle. So this morning when that happened, when it was like, should we go, should we not go? Or last night. And I said, for me, it's not a question. I looked, I saw the weather, and now this is a principle for me. Oh, we don't go. Mm-hmm. Unless it's an emergency. And that's why I have a Jeep, right? It's for important things. But regular is not that important. Mm-hmm. No. So to say, this is, how I say it to Anastasia is, the idea is that every once in a while, God wants you to have a day off. And he makes it really obvious. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean don't do anything. There'll be plenty to do. You'll have lots to do in your home. You will do all the things you've been wanting to do for a long time. So enjoy the snow. And like the weather outside is frightful,
Yeah.
Do some more. Now I get it. You got an office. You got to be there. They tell you got to be there, et cetera, et cetera. But for our part, where we have control over our lives, a first principle is if we have plans, but it's going to create crisis, or possibly create crisis to fulfill the plans, then it's not fun. That's not fun. It's not worth it.
Right.
Take the day, live tomorrow, receive. And that view of weather, that if the weather is dangerous, then I'm just not going to drive unless it's truly kind of life or death. Mm-hmm. You need the Lord's Supper in the snowstorm. Okay. You're dying. Okay, I'll come. Right. But it's a snowstorm. So no, I mean, I can live without, this thing or that thing, or in our case, missing practice.
Yeah.
So,
which a lot of people are tied to, or going to a game. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've heard of all manner of accidents and things, people coming to Rockford because of a volleyball tournament. Like we draw a lot of people for volleyball tournaments in January, and it's rough. It's hard to get here. We have a lot of ice. So
it made me think of, so now I know Facebook's watching me.
Well, because you're on Facebook.
Yeah. So I go on just to share stuff, right? And then Instagram's sort of the spring point for the sharing. And I've told you about how Instagram's no better than TikTok in terms of its attempt to manipulate the way you see the screen.
Absolutely.
Twitter's a little better. I'll be really frank. Twitter is not as wicked in trying to cheat your eyes onto the screen. That used to be worse. Actually, Elon made a big change in advertising. I didn't even notice that. It's gone now. That's nice. Twitter is honestly putting its money on its belief in its capacity to be itself. Like if Twitter just is the only place people go to talk, ultimately, where news really breaks the first time, well, then that's all it has to be. It never has to be more than that. And he knows that. And again, I think the guy's pretty intelligent. So Instagram, however, is, so I push the plus button, and I get my picture, and I take my words that I prepared, I put them in, and I go to send my picture out, hit send, and I see a little bar go across, and it's just taking a little long for such a small little picture to go up on this 5G. I don't know why it's taking so long, but there's a video running on my home feed. There's a picture running, and it's got words popping up, and stuff's changed and all this, and I'm like, I can hit this button and make it go away, and now I can see my thing's already been sent. Why haven't I seen that my thing's been sent yet? Oh, I see. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is the video yesterday was about Rockford. I don't do anything. I don't click anything. I don't look at it. How do you know that? Facebook. Well, Facebook, where people in Rockford are getting the same stuff and responding to it, right? It's all in their databases. They're cross-referencing. They know who you are. I bring it up because the video about Rockford from Instagram, I was actually glad to see. I was like, wow, that's amazing. Did you know that there are tunnels all over underneath the city of Rockford?
No.
Where the previous version of the city, like Chicago, was built, including there's a church, there's an abandoned church underground, there's an abandoned like gymnasium. There was video of all this stuff. Maybe they're making it up and they spliced it all together, but golly, it sounded cool. And it was straight up out of like zombie movies. Like you're going down these dark hallways and there's an abandoned soda station with like soda cans in it from who knows when. And I'm all like, Fallout, baby. Yeah. Rockford. It's probably most cities, I would imagine. Most real cities built before the 1950s are going to have like underground catacombs where early city somehow got covered. I don't know how that happens. There's got to be a science to that. But you build up over. There's fires. Things fall down. And
well, in Chicago, it's on purpose so that you can continue.
There are places where
when there is ice and stuff.
There are places where that is also the case. But this is not. This is more than that.
Okay.
In Chicago, there are places like this too. Just abandoned. I mean, the subway station. Just to get through the subways, there are reams and reams of other types of catacombs, for lack of a better word. That some of them will be tied directly to the subway, but then other things that were being done at the time are going to be
just for abandoned.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So, yeah, that it was just like, oh wow, Rockford. Rockford's like the center of the universe. I decided that it is. All things cosmologically run through Rockford. Yeah. I don't know.
It's a good
fun
place.
Story. It's a fun story.
It really is.
It is a fascinating place. Lots of opportunity. It is a land of opportunity. You have to be wise enough to know how to live underneath a communist regime. But see, we all have to kind of be wise enough to do that now.
I don't think that's not any
people in
somewhere.
Texas
I
are like, we're fighting back, right? Yeah. And you are. I hope you do.
It's city life. Like we live in a small city.
Yeah.
So you don't have nearly as much traffic, but you have everything, all the corruption that comes with a city.
It's got all the positive and the negative with the country kind of just right there.
Right. Which is amazing.
It's a microcosm.
Yeah. I was going to say something, but I forgot.
Well, we can talk about the Hebron Collegium, a spiritual retreat center for men and gap year school, Bible school. Yeah,
we have another, a returning
guest, returning student
time.
making his way. So the application process for residential time at the Hebron Collegium, which is like a monastic boot camp for Christian living, is you come and you visit, and then you find out whether you actually really want this. Our first year, one of the things I learned was not everyone wants to self-develop. Not really. And some need hands held, some don't more, but like it's harder to help you when you don't want it, right? Or when you don't think that what I can help you with can help you. But what the Hebron Collegium is designed for is it's not about, Fisk helping you. It's about you helping yourself a little bit. And that we're providing the tools for a young man who has not been allowed to take ownership of himself to start doing that. A man who has some ownership but wants to really develop it further. I mean, golly, any pastor out there, take your sabbatical and spend some time in our theological library. You're going to be amazed at what you didn't know you weren't thinking about that will impact your ministry. And I mean it. And I don't mean it just because I think so. I think the way this place works as a prayer and a dream, but also founded on the lore of Scripture and Solomon's way. Right? things interact in the house in ways that you can't predict, you can't explain. I'm not going to say that it's miraculous. I'm not talking voodoo here, right? But I'm saying that there's just a crossroads there that tends to surprise everyone who comes through with exactly what they didn't know they were looking for. And so the Spiritual Retreat Center for Men here in Rockford, Illinois, the Hebron Collegium, theHebronCollegium.com website under redevelopment, and so forth. So yeah, get that out there. But yeah, the gentleman coming for his second round of auditions. And if it goes well enough, we'll get to a real quarter. And we got another gentleman, God willing, coming to the end of his quarter here soon. He's got plans, and those plans have to come to fruition. But it has been a wild success, I would say, in terms of his development.
And then there will be another
short-termer
coming
in January for about a week and a half. Yeah,
it's been quiet.
It's nice,
but
though.
it's been just active enough.
Yep.
To be
as winter comes on,
continual march.
Yeah, as winter comes on, our summer events, we always have the Sunday night events and the barbecues, and open mat still exists, but we're all just so tired. So it's all still there.
Yeah, and the communities had one baby born and one baby conceived, and so the energies are going to different places.
Seasonal jobs
and so being able to facilitate the open mat has also been something that it's like, oh, well, is it snowing?
Yeah, right.
We'll just stay home.
But it's all going, right? I'm not making as much noise about it, because what I learned in the first year and the long game is that we've got it in the water. It's just got to stay afloat now. And that doesn't mean growing as fast as we can. That means growing well as we grow. And that's what this year's just been amazing to watch. Our current resident, the most unexpected student,
absolutely,
and
came
really
while we were out of town,
saving his own world in some ways, that this place was here for him. If this was not here, what would have become of his life? I don't know, but it is it's just been so good on so many different levels, and praising God for that, and for those who made this possible. I know the man who gives is probably listening, so thank you. And it continues on. We got 15 minutes here, 10 minutes, 15 minutes here. I don't know what else to kind of go with. Oh, I just knocked it further away. Isn't it fun to be me? It's great.
Good thing you have another one in your hand.
I do. I should have left this other one up there.
Pens abound.
Here's a question I think is kind of fun. For the next time someone goes like, so why do you use a crucifix instead of a cross? He's not on the cross anymore. Here's my question. What makes you think that empty cross belongs to Jesus? Because you do know, I don't know, millions of people have died on a cross. Hundreds of thousands at least. Probably millions. So why is the cross your symbol? I don't get it. Why? What makes you think that cross is Jesus' cross and not some other cross? There are other crosses out there that are not Jesus' cross. What makes you think it is? And I'm not trying to be snarky at all. It's because they're always being snarky. And it's
I love what you inspired, though, and as you spoke, the empty cross is the cross I need to be hung on, but the full cross is Christ doing it for me.
That's right. Yeah, it's good. One of the other things that came up with a friend of mine was talking about burnout in general. And he mentioned that it's kind of the tendency of men to get absorbed in their love of what they do. Right?
Women too.
And you're right. To the neglect of discipleship, meaning the raising of their children as disciples in Christ. And that the threat isn't always just, I need to provide. The threat is I like providing.
Right.
Sometimes I like providing more than the people I provide for. And every man who's honest has to be able to say that about some moment in his life with his family. But then that becomes the challenge is when you find success in providing and you don't find success in the relationships, right? Then you're going to go back to what you're good at. And I think there's a lot of men living that way. And I don't want them to all feel ashamed. You workaholics, how dare you? That's how it comes across, as shame. And what are you going to do? How are you going to fix it? You are who you are. But I'd rather just have you hear me say, like, I get it, actually. And I want to do better. I'm going to do better. I'm doing better. I don't pretend for a moment I'm going to let go of that, though, that I'm not going to need to be. Because that's so much of what makes a man a man. And
absolutely.
With a generation of us who haven't been able to be for 40 years because we've been virtualized, it's just doubly so. So my prayer in this is that I grab my son's hand as I do it and say, come with me. Let's go.
Amen.
And it seems to be happening piece by piece. So I rejoice in that.
Super important. And he doesn't, he's not going to always be like, yay. And that doesn't really matter. You just keep on going, because oftentimes the age when I think it's more natural for the father to step in and be like, hey, let's do this together, is the age when the son is going to be crabby and just discontent with all of
everything.
life.
Right.
And so it's not you.
Right.
Like I had a conversation last night about it, actually, with our son. And I said, I know this is totally normal for you to go through this grouchy phase. Mm-hmm. And I've watched your sisters have their own version of it.
Yeah.
So it's not unique to boy.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It is emotionally challenging for me to watch my happy son suddenly become this angsty teen.
Right.
It's just, my heart breaks for you, because it is like the fall of man, just smacking people up against the side of the head.
Yeah, right.
Here, let me put this helmet of the fall upon your head so you can just not do anything except despair. But we don't have to. And it's tough for them. It's harder for them than it is for us to watch them go through it. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really great that you are taking that initiative, because he's not going to say, hey, Dad, show me this.
Well, he did. He said, let's play Nerf guns. And I said, I am in my study doing work in the middle of a workday.
So
which is the thing, though, right?
You go to Goodwill, you get a Nerf gun and secretly have it. Mm-hmm. So the next time he comes in, you're ready.
Yeah. Did you hear what I told him we should do for our...
No.
I don't think he listens to this show. So our resident is hunting.
Yeah. I saw that
so
on the calendar.
I thought about texting him and saying, stop by my house before you get home. Then don't go back to Hebron yet. Stop by. Let me know when you're going to come. When we get the text, we send Fides and one Nerf gun over to the house with 6 Nerf bullets. And then our friend shows up, and I just hand him the one Nerf gun with 6 bullets. I say, I hope you survive. There's only one. And he would have to go back into the house after being gone for 4 days. And this guy's a vet, he's going to have a blast, actually.
Oh, you should. Are you going to do it?
Well, the problem is one of the guns doesn't work that well. And so I guess I give that one to the kid. And then although I don't know, the resident might be pretty good. So, but the whole house, right? And there's one person with a little Nerf gun hiding somewhere in that whole house, and you got to go in. I mean, how fun could that be?
Oh man, I do that to the resident all the time, unfortunately. Yeah. He's told me, because I'll go in, I'll move some stuff around.
And he's like, where'd it happen? What
yep. And he knows. Mm-hmm. He can tell that I've walked on the carpet. Wow. And then I'll leave a light on somewhere, and that kills him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I'm not there.
Yeah.
And I forgot to lock one of the doors.
That probably would get him more than anything. Yeah, the lock's especially going to get him.
Drives him crazy. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Yeah. I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think about that when I go over there and I try to leave really obvious marks.
Oh,
instead.
okay.
I make it really clear that I was here in some way.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, it kind of brings us to time. Are you burning to say more? I'm obviously comfortable enough to lay back a little bit today.
Yeah, I was thinking about your comments about providing and how well that lines up with what I've read. Shanti, and I don't know what her last name is, but
Right.
she writes for women only. She also writes for men only. She does specifically say that it is very important for men to feel like they're providing, and about your age is when that rubber hits the road for you. Like you have to feel like you're providing. And to a point where we have a lot of house husbands now. Like that's kind of a popular thing.
Yeah, it's fun when you're 20.
And they will leave home. It causes them to go into a huge midlife crisis.
Right.
But like essentially they are unable to continue contentedly doing the house husband gig.
They got to do something with their life.
Because they absolutely do not feel like they are fully men unless they're providing for. And it doesn't. So as we look at this, like, what does that mean for the natural man looking at his wife's paycheck as higher than his paycheck?
Yeah, I don't know if it's about the paycheck though.
It does.
It's about what you do.
It does impact psychologically.
But Meredith, hey, check it out.
Way.
If you manage to like do something, spectacularly special that turns into so much money, that we have all this money because you wrote a book, knitted something. I don't know. Right?
I knitted the most amazing scarf in the world. And
like
boom,
like
we
that.
have
I don't think
money.
that's not my problem. My problem wouldn't be that my wife has money that she gives me. I'm not going to really be upset about all the money that you're like, hey, I bought a field and then I sold it. And look at the proceeds. Like that's not going to be a problem for me. The issue is twofold. I'm going to try to hold on to both these. The issue is woman and her spirit in our current age telling me, shaming me for providing with great regularity throughout the spirit of the times. That comes into the home unwittingly through casual conversation that mimics what's said and has implications for men that women don't maybe even know are there. So there's that. Okay, so that was one. Oh, I'm going to lose the other one though. It's too far back. That was providing in terms of feeling shame at the very task of trying to provide. And then I think this is right. The other side of it is that it isn't even really about provision. I must protect what is my own. But I want to protect what is my own by doing what I've been made to do, not doing what some other man tells me to do, or much less what some woman tells me to do. And I think, guys, if you listen, know what I'm talking about. That is such a simple and yet ridiculously complex thing. But it's not just about protection and provision. If I cannot protect and provide, I will feel that I have failed. But the threat is not that you would have money. The threat is that I would not be able to do what I do and have you say, wow, thank you. Look, I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah.
And most guys are like, well, money, that gets most women to be happy with them, right? So that's where they go. But I don't tend to bring that to you, right? I bring you like a silly piece of art I printed. Like some 3-year-old. Look, trying to produce out of yourself, from your environment, something that makes those who you love say, you are lovable. You are loved for these things. We love that you do this. Which there's a certain justification by works there, but there's a natural reality to that too that we can't escape. The father must be useful. Why is our friend putting his dad to work every morning 4 days a week with his job, right? You know, we were just talking about. Because we need to be useful.
Yeah.
Why do old men want to talk about all the things they achieved? We want to remember how useful we are, right? And we want to be useful at what we're good at, what we do. Because any man who's not watching a TV, if you let him sit anywhere long enough, he's going to pick something up and do something with it. He just will have to. And he'll be driven to this thing or that thing. You give him two. He'll pick one up and not the other one. He may put it down, pick the other one. But one's going to be more than the other. He'll get good at that one. Mm-hmm. And he'll want to have other ones that are like it. It doesn't matter what it is. You just start, you find it. If you spend your life flipping with your thumbs, you're never going to find it. You know, clicking on the screen and watching, you're never going to find it. So the fulfillment it's not just about protection. It's not just about income. It is true that the house dad, well, he ain't going to produce anything. He's going to play games when he can, and he'll probably neglect his children. Maybe not. There may be some really good mom dads out there, but most guys don't have an intuitive nature to understand what children actually need emotionally the way that actually a lot of women don't have it either, sadly. But a woman's more naturally inclined to that. And so I think you're going to get a lot of kids that are confused. And a lot of dads who don't understand why it isn't working out. And a lot of women who are mad that their house husband isn't doing what they think he should be doing. Mm-hmm. And she may be upset that the kids are this way and he's not. That's very likely, I think. No. So, again, I don't know. And if you're forced into that situation as a Christian, you're forced into that situation as a Christian. So I'm not trying to claim some sort of moral superiority. You all suck or something, right? But to see how, for the marriage to thrive, it's not that the woman can't make money. It's that the man needs to know she needs him. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be for money. She just has to need him on some way, some level. Demonstrate that, show that. And that's what he hungers for. And so he goes off and he kills an ox and brings home a horn. See? And you're supposed to go, oh, that's the biggest ox horn I ever saw. Right? And a lot of girls do. A big truck. Oh, look at his truck. In high school, it's very natural. And again, it's not all wrong. Our sin is all through it. So it's always filled with corruption and carnal things. But yeah. And in that way, so even like protecting you or protecting the children is not about protecting the children. It's because they're like the highest version of whatever I produce, right? So my son, when he goes and does something and I watch, or my daughter goes and does something and I watch, well, that's a fruit. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of parents who don't give emotional attention to their kids nonetheless get that of like sports, right? The fruit of, oh, well, look at him go, right? And so there's real value in that, power in that. I'm not quite sure if I want to say that it's a risk or not, or it's bad or not. So I'm wandering in my own thought here and really thinking out loud, which is interesting. So comfortable with the show. Willing to think out loud, ran myself in a circle, agree with everything I said, not sure if I have a concluding thought, am physically sweating out of fear because I don't have a concluding thought. That would just let you into my little world there, right? That fast. I've been fine up to this point. I'm like sweating right now. It's increasing because I'm talking about something.
Well, I have a piece of food in my teeth, so
I'll back
there
off
you
on
go.
It. But it's really, man, wow. It's just, that's so. Lymphatic system. When you don't have control of your lymphatic system, it is frustrating. Anyway, so I was talking about family and order.
Yeah, and there was something that you were like, I'm not sure if I can go this way or if I can say it's positive or negative. And I wasn't quite able to understand what you were kind of
pressing toward. I was pushing for it and trying to come up with a thought. It was a thought I haven't had before. I was trying to get it.
Okay.
And I didn't quite get there.
So we have this scenario where men desire to be needed, and they do acts of provision and protection to be, I believe, to be able to point to something as they battle their own inferiority complex,
Yeah.
or
You're relying on me. Your need of me gives my imposter syndrome its antidote. Oh, I'm not an imposter because look what I did.
right.
And if you haven't done anything in your 40s, you're going to start saying, I haven't done anything.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you've done some things, you might not think they're worth much. So that, I think that is found some solution in the woman knowing how to praise her husband, but also then rightly understanding the children as the thing you most are here to do.
Mm-hmm.
So the most beautiful art I will ever make are my children.
Yeah.
And their art is my art.
Mm-hmm.
Their hands are my hands. And for all fathers and mothers to see that, to push for that, as opposed to the kind of cookie cutter pet version of child rearing that we have, like let's have a couple and then get rid of them, right? Kind of thing. I just think there's a lot more joy in seeing that the task is not that I must protect them. The task is that I want them to thrive, because when they thrive, I thrive. What does that mean? What does that look like? We've not been trained for this. They didn't pass on the knowledge. We have to find it again. And Scripture has it again. And so, hallelujah. He will turn the hearts of the fathers to their sons. I mean, it's like the last thing the Old Testament says is it happens over and over again. The little picture on the money becomes more important than the little boy on the floor. Over and over and over again. Generation after generation, society after society. So, Jesus turns the hearts of the fathers back to the sons.
Amen.
So, hallelujah. Yeah. And for what it's worth, thanks for tuning in, everybody, today and watching us continue to transmogrify. And if you know what that means, you grew up when I did. Learn to change and grow in real time as we seek to silence the voice of the old evil foe who likes to throw so much white noise at you that you don't hear what's being said, even though it's changing everything around you. So take ownership of your land. Know that you are a king in the kingdom, and reign with the word of God. That's what we're here to help you do. Is what we want to do ourselves. You can send questions again to madpxm.com/contact. You can follow all of this and more at RevFisk, RevFisk.com. And of course, if you'd like to come through the area, Rockford, Illinois, sp815.org, Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod, glad to have you. We do have closed communion, and the Hebrew and Collegium Gap Year Bible School for Men. You can not commune with us and come to the Hebrew and Collegium. We'll welcome you. So don't wallow in the muck with those who have no hope, but rock on all the more as you see the day approaching. Hallelujah.
Was that worth $1? Click the Patreon link in the show notes to sign up. Pretty please?